Okay, we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. This is a special study session of the Minnetonka City Council. I will call this meeting to order, and then let's go around and do introductions. And that everybody are at the table and the guests. And Sarissa, if you would start, please.
Sarissa Falk, Senior Management Coordinator.
Jace Alexander, Senior Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Coordinator.
Mike Funk, City Manager.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2.
Brad Wiersum, Mayor.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4.
Deb Calvert, at-large, CA.
Paula Romero, Ward 3.
Corinne Heine, City Attorney.
Jerry Peterson, and a Minnetonka resident.
Very good. So we've got the introduction and roll call done. We have an addendum for this evening. Mike, do you want to take that, or Jace? Whoever has it, please take it.
Yeah, let's begin, Mayor and Council, real quick. Thank you, Brad and Council. So there's an addenda in your iPad. There are a couple things in that addenda. One is the interview questions. So we do have 5 interview questions framed up for all the candidates. We do that for a number of reasons, but from an HR resource best practice, asking each candidate the same questions provides a fair platform. So we do have 5 questions. I think what we discussed is having one council member ask all 5 questions, and the council can rotate with each new candidate. So we do have those questions in your agenda. There was the scoring sheet also provided. So you have that in your agenda as well as a hard copy in front of you. Because after tonight, what staff will be looking for, council, is your rankings of the candidates. We had 28 applications. We are interviewing, I believe, 11 or 12 this evening.
11 plus 2 students.
Oh, there you go. So thank you, Sarissa. 11 plus 2 students, and so we'll want that feedback, or I should say we as staff will compile your feedback. We'll provide that to the mayor. As you know, with the way our process works, the mayor does make the appointments, but your feedback to the mayor is important in this process. So we'll collect all that from you after this evening, and then provide that to the mayor, and then that'll come back to the council for recommendations for appointment. The other thing in there is the applications from all of the folks that you're going to be interviewing tonight. So we do have a full schedule. We do have 10 minutes allotted for each candidate, so it's going to go quick. It's not a lot of time to get to know everyone here this evening. So at the end of tonight, we will, as staff, seek your direction after the meeting. You certainly can, if you feel like you want to interview more people. Again, we had at 28 applications, so if you feel after tonight you want to interview more, that's always a possibility, an option for you to consider. So again, we'll discuss that at the end. Or it's very possible you'll interview the 11 plus 2 students and feel good about the applicant pool, and we could end the interview process after tonight as well. So again, that's the tee up for this evening. So with that, Mayor and Council, I think that's all the information. Oh, I should mention that with the addenda, with the applications, there's a distinction between what you as a council can see and what is public data. So with the information that you received in the application forms, you have the full breadth of data. Not all that data is for public, and so I just caution you that protecting whether it's a person that's interviewing for a commission is a lot of the same information that's even for employment with the city. So there's just certain information about applicants that's public and some that is non-public. So we do put that in the addenda, and that is a private addenda for your information.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And one quick confession, we are going to start, but I realized I walked out of my office without my iPad. I'm going to go get that. And so, hopefully I can do that within the next 2 minutes. I apologize for that delay. And then we'll get started with our student applicants, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Thank you.
I'll be right back. Apologies for that delay.
And then if I could, Mayor and Council.
Yes.
The other thing I just would mention is, with tonight's structure, we have 5 questions, and I think the mayor will, as he introduces each candidate, just making sure we tried to really tee this up for 10 minutes per candidate, so it's 5 questions. We have provided the interview questions to all of the candidates, so they do have an idea of what those questions are being asked. We do that for a couple reasons. One, because we're interviewing 13 people tonight, we want to keep it moving and give the same 10 minutes to every candidate. So the candidates know they have 10 minutes each, so hopefully their responses are succinct and they can answer all 5 questions within that 10-minute time frame.
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. So,
Thank you for having me.
got a little introduction here. Want to thank you for your interest in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is our, our first opportunity to interview candidates, so welcome. In the next 10 minutes, we, the council, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves to you. In the next 10 minutes, we'll pose 5 questions to you, and I believe that you were provided those, so you have an idea of what's coming. We are going to try and adhere to a 10-minute time limit, so we want to be respectful and keep things going. Each council member will introduce themselves and share with you their pronouns, and then we'll just go through the questions. So we'll rotate. I think I will start out as the first questioner, and then we will rotate from left to right, probably starting with Patsy. And so let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Sounds
Then
great.
we'll be ready to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Patsy.
Hi, I'm Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her.
Kimberly Wilburn, excuse me, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Wearsome, Mayor, he, his.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at-large, seat A, she, her.
Paula Romali, Ward 3, she, her.
So, with that, we're ready to go. And please, let me see, I have to get these questions out in front of me. I should have done this earlier, but I neglected to bring my questions.
It's all good.
Thank you. So first of all, our question is, and I'll do the questions for you, and then each candidate will so you don't have to have your head on a swivel. So first of all, just please tell yourself about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for our DEI Commission.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, my name is Rue, and I use the pronouns he, him, his. A bit of a short background story about me is I'm adopted from Guatemala. I've been going to Minnetonka my entire life. I am currently studying at Minnetonka High School. I've always had a passion to help others and to especially help the youth find their voice. I know a lot. I've done a lot of public speaking. I've gone to the Hennepin County's Government Center and spoken there before. And I've really been trying to get more into helping out my fellow peers in finding their voice. And I feel like it's really important, especially because we see a lot of diversity in our council, but one thing that we don't see and we don't get a lot of is the youth perspective of really the insight of what it's like to be a student and the reality of what's really going on inside our school systems. And I feel like this would be a correct position for me, being able to bring in just multiple different types of experiences, lots of values and working well with other people, and being very organized is definitely one thing that helps me a lot with my kind of advocacy work. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So, in your review of the Minnetonka City Code, 150.015, Powers and Duties, Section 3. Describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that really stands out to me whenever I hear the word inclusivity is making sure that we're being able to provide a space for everyone, no matter what their background history is. Making sure that everyone feels valued, heard, and seen is really, really important to me. And being able to make sure everyone feels like their voice is getting heard and being able to have that kind of just being able to provide a space for everyone to feel welcomed is definitely what I think Tonka is.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So this is a bit of a challenge question here. What is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement in its first year?
Yeah, this question definitely took a while for me to think on. And one of my biggest things has been being able to get better education of multiple different minority groups for teachers and staff in our community. I think a biggest thing for me is I am a transgender male, and I have seen a lot of struggles in our school systems and in our community surrounding those types of topics, as well as people of color, which unfortunately is still a problem of lots of minority groups being discriminated against. And I feel that it's important that we kind of nail down the people that we hire and bring into our communities, teaching our kids that, like, having them understand, like, more backgrounds of how to use correct pronouns, and, like, just being able to provide information for them so they can learn and take that into their job to really apply that. So.
Great. Well, thank you. So, question 4, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
I think that this challenge that I think of, it kind of goes both ways, is working with someone who is of younger age and also like trying to see eye to eye without that power dynamic of I'm older, so I have more experience, and where I'm younger, so I haven't lived as much as all of you, and I have had that experience quite a lot, and I think it's going to be a challenge of me to being able to fully trust that I'm being seen as a peer and as being seen as an equal, and not someone less than just because I'm younger than you guys.
Very good. Thank you. Good perspective. So we're getting close to the end, but what questions do you have for us?
I guess just what are you guys mostly looking for with these interviews?
Well, I'll take a stab, and if anyone wants to add, we have boards and commissions, and we have residents, and some of our boards and commissions have young adult, I won't say just student, but young adult representatives. And what we're trying to do, and this is a new commission, so
Yeah.
it's kind of unplowed territory for us. But what we want to do is get people who can represent the city and a perspective that we need to hear. You just mentioned the youth aspect. Okay, well, I can't. I was a youth at one time, but I no longer am, and it was quite a while ago. And I also recognize that some of my thoughts and ideas are maybe a little out of date and so forth. So having you connect us with what you're facing both in the schools and in our city and help us be more aware. I mean, as you were talking, one of the questions that I had, if I was going to add one, would be, what types of things can we do to connect with people that to share a perspective on what it's like to be part of a particular group that is maybe not as mainstream as a city like Minnetonka is used to having, because we care about those perspectives. And so, is it community conversations? Is it TED Talks? Is it, what things could we do and what ideas can we do to better understand perspectives so that we really are a welcoming and inclusive city?
Absolutely.
That's kind of a battle that I'm trying to figure out, and I think we as a council are. Council members, do you have anything you want to add to that?
A good response.
All right, Rue, it is very nice to
Yeah.
meet you. I will tell you that, we're not going to say this to all the candidates, but we have 2 students, 2 young adult spots, and we have 2 applicants. So your odds for getting picked are very high. and I can't say that to all the other applicants, but you've made a very positive impression on me. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me take up some of your guys' time tonight.
Great.
Thanks.
Very good. Thanks for being here. Jace, next. Thanks, Rue.
Thank you.
And then, Patty, Patsy, do you want to take the
Sure,
do you want to
introduce?
Yeah, I'll do the introduction and hand it to you.
Sure. Oops. Yes, sorry.
Not a
Yes,
problem.
please.
You're good. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, Joaquin? Yeah, grab that. Did I get that right, Joaquin?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I pronounce names right, and if I get them wrong, correct me. So, first we will we'll go and have. We've got some staff on the outside tables, but we will have our council members each introduce themselves to you, and then I'll start out, and then we'll have Councilmember Patsy Foster Bolton ask the question. So, please, Patsy, introduce yourself.
Hi, Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Kimberly Wilburn, at large.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2.
Hi, I'm Brad Wiersum. I'm the mayor.
Kizzy Copley, Ward 4.
Deb Calvert, at-large, seat A, she, her.
Paula Romeoli, Ward 3, she, her.
Thank you. And some of us skip the pronouns, so I'm he,
Oops,
his.
sorry.
We have a lot of she, hers, and one he, his on the council, just so you know.
Maybe just say that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, we could probably do it that way. So, well, thank you for your interest in the Minnetonka Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Your commitment to this inaugural opportunity is really appreciated, and the City Council eagerly anticipates hearing from you. In the next 10 minutes, we will pose 5 questions, and I believe those have been shared with you previously. Please utilize your time judiciously, as we hope to we really hope to stick to our 10-minute time schedule. We've introduced ourselves and we've shared our pronouns, and so we will start with the questions. And again, thank you for being here, and I will turn to Councilmember Patsy Foster Bolton to ask the questions.
Hi, Joaquin. The first question is, please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Sure, yeah. So as you all know, my name's Joaquin. My background, I come from a mixed race family. So my dad is Mexican, my mom is white. So identify as Latino, Hispanic, depending on where I am. And I identify with that background, especially when I'm at school. I go to Blake, which is a predominantly white school. So when I'm at Blake, I notice my identity a lot more, which has provided its own set of challenges, but also many opportunities that I've taken advantage of, where I can claim my identity and be proud of it, and really step forth as the person that I want to be. So I've utilized that opportunity. So I've gone there my entire life, and I've grown within that community to really represent my identity. So through groups like Latinos Unidos, which is a Latinx group that I am the leader of there at the school, in the upper school, the high school. I'm a member of SDLC, which is the Student Diversity Leadership Council, and we work on equity and inclusion of every member in our community, and we work on specific projects such as, we call them equity labs. 2 to 3 times a year, we will bring an outside speaker or come up with our own curriculum or presentation to raise more awareness surrounding topics relating to equity within our community. And then when I was in middle school, I actually created the Students of Color Affinity Group with Mr. Alexander when he was my 7th grade teacher. So we created that group there, which was an amazing opportunity given that I felt like I wanted to be able to represent myself, and there was already a Black student affinity group called Ikemba. And so I wanted to make a space where other students could feel represented who didn't necessarily fit into that group, such as myself. And so we created that space, and it still runs today. I know because one of my friends, his younger sister, is actually in that group still and talks about it, and so it's just awesome to hear that that's still something that's going on. Yeah, so I mean, aside from
That's great.
the diversity pieces, I'm a student, I'm an athlete, I'm a musician. I enjoy spending time with my family. Yeah.
That's great. In your review of Minnetonka City Code 150.015, Powers and Duties, Section 3, describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
For sure. Yeah. I think for me that means just a community where everybody feels safe and even confident in who they are and in representing themselves the way they want to be seen, the way they would hope to be seen, not shunning away from any of their identities, and yeah, feeling pride in representing that within our community here. Could you repeat the question one more time so I can just make sure
Sure.
I cover it?
It's a long question,
Just-
isn't it?
Maybe the
In
inclusive.
review.
Just the inclusive part, no?
Okay, I'll just describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, recreates, and works in the city.
Yeah, so I'd also just say, you know, providing spaces and space for people to be able to represent themselves the way they want to be. I said in my application that celebrating Heritage Months is something that I brought up at school, at least, in different ways that at school at least we're able to recognize, like Hispanic Heritage Month and African American Heritage Month and things like that, so where we can, you know, celebrate and lift up the members, the people of color within our community. I think that's like a really good thing that we've done at school, at least, that I've enjoyed working on. And so, you know, just in our community here in Minnetonka, you know, not only providing a space where people of color can feel safe and like they are free to be themselves and represent themselves how they want to be, but also uplifting those members of our community, you know, because equity is super important, especially in today's society where, you know, polarization and racial disparities are at large and a very prominent and pressing topic, in my opinion. So just making sure that members of our community that identify as people of color feel safe and represented and like they're being uplifted. And yeah.
Thanks. So number 3 is, what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement in the first year?
Initiative, policy, or strategy.
I mean, you're already good at that, aren't you? You established one. Am I answering the question for you?
Well, no, it's just I didn't want to repeat the idea that I had said in my application necessarily, you know, like, but I mean, I was thinking a great idea would be more community-wide events celebrating specific groups, specific cultural groups, for example. Specific could be festivals. I know that things like parades and festivals and gatherings in public parks and things like that, just publishing events where people can go and meet other people that identify with their similar identity, to further that connection and sense of community. And then also where people who don't necessarily identify that way can go to maybe learn more, get educated, because being an ally is equally as important. So yeah, that for sure. I'm not sure on like specific policies, I will be honest, because I haven't like read the Minnetonka handbook or anything. I'm gonna be honest, but you know, I just think that, yeah, that, and also just making sure that in schools in Minnetonka especially, the topics of curriculum are staying, you know, focused on celebrating our differences instead of shunning away from that. Because I know that recently I was just talking in my class today in APU's government about this, how certain people in Minnesota are upset over the updated curriculum for the state of Minnesota and how it focuses on, there's a new chapter in history that is talking more about representing different ethnic groups and different ethnicities, and some people are upset over that, which I don't agree with whatsoever, but it was just interesting to see that even within our own state, there's still a large divide between, people's opinions on whether we should uplift and focus on our differences or shun away from them. And I think focusing on them, because of the fact that once we acknowledge them and lift them up and celebrate them, that just lessens the gap between our division as a community. So I don't know exactly how it applies in education, but I just say, like, in terms of education, something that's been really important for me growing up has been learning about different cultures, learning about different ethnic groups, and celebrating that through the classroom and through education for sure. So I just say, in terms of education, that.
Thanks. Number 4 is, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
I'd say an individual challenge for me would be not letting my biases get in the way. I have strong opinions, and I try to be really open-minded, yet at times I notice myself, even in class today, like leaning really far towards one side rather than the other. If somebody shares something, having some sort of resentment in my mind towards them in a way, or some sort of, when I find that I disagree with them, then thinking more critically about that person. So just making sure that I hold my own opinions and my own biases sort of, I don't want to act on them all the time. I want to have them definitely still be a part of me, because those are parts of me that I want to bring into this environment, but also just making sure that I'm being respectful towards everybody and everybody's opinion, respecting that, especially given that not everybody's going to see the same way as me, but that doesn't invalidate what they're saying or their opinion or the value that they bring to our community. So that. And then for the board overall, I'd say just going with that same idea, just making sure as a board that we all are respectful of each other's different identities. I know now that it seems like polarization is, I've noticed, like at a maximum almost in, like, well, I've only been alive 17 years, but in what I've noticed, so just making sure that, we are able to work, I'd say, productively together and come to agreements not too far towards one side or the other, and make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Because if we're trying to represent equity, inclusion, diversity, and there's people on the board whose voices aren't being heard, it's almost contradicting. So that's something that I think would be really important. And in different groups I've worked in, that's something that's been really important, is even the more quiet scholars bringing their voices into the discussion, because everybody's voice matters to me.
Very good.
The last one is, what questions do you have for us?
What challenges have you all noticed in recent years surrounding diversity, equity, inclusion in Minnetonka? I'd love to be just more informed, specifically pertaining to the city of Minnetonka, and what measures have been taken to act upon that, if any. I'd just love to hear about that.
Go ahead.
I could certainly weigh in on that. I mean, I think one of the baseline things that we've struggled with, and I know some of my colleagues would agree, is engaging a diverse population of voices. So if we're looking for public engagement, or we want applicants for any kind of committee or commission, sometimes we have a hard time getting people to the table. And so what I think this commission will help us do is to get out in the community and find people whose voices maybe we haven't heard, and or who just don't even know that there's opportunities here for them to engage.
So, are you good, or?
Yeah.
Go, okay.
I would just add that I think to your point, you know, I think a commission dealing with these issues often touches kind of raw places in people. There may be generational trauma, racial trauma, they may be, you know, just strong feelings. And I think that the big challenge that we had, you know, we had a task force to try to help shape the work of this commission, is exactly what you, one of the youngest people that's going to be on this commission, talked about, is just not allowing personal biases and, you know, strongly held views sort of overshadow hearing and listening, and really including the other people on the commission in, you know, in real dialogue. I think that's going to be, you know, potentially a big challenge. And especially when not every, you know, it's such a broad topic. There's so many urgent issues, and there's so many different communities that will be affected by the work of the commission, and not all of them are going to be represented by someone. And so how will this commission lift up those perspectives and those voices also when they don't have representation on the commission? I think that's going to be, you know, a challenge.
So Joaquin, you're an engaging young man, and we love having you. We got to keep moving. So I want to be mindful of time, but one thing is that we have 2 candidates for 2 spots. So the likelihood of your being selected is pretty darn good. But you really did a nice job tonight, and look forward to learning more from you. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, I can look around this room and I can tell you that we are all biased, and what we have to do is recognize it and own those biases, and be open to other perspectives. And I think you articulated that very well. So thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your time.
Have a good one.
Good teacher.
Yeah.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did. We don't call him Mr. Alexander, but if we should, it's good to know.
I think I learned it's Mr. A, is that?
I mean, that's what some people call him. I always just call him Mr. Alexander.
Did he call you and twist your arm to have you come here tonight? You don't have to answer that question.
I mean, maybe just a tad bit, you know.
Joaquin, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thank you.
Familiar face here.
Mr. Banks,
Hi, everyone.
good to see you.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we've got a new council than you've seen before, so we're going to go down the line, introduce ourselves, but I'll get this little introduction we'll do first. So first of all, thanks for applying for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. I think it's exciting that we're doing this, and we're very pleased to have you here. In the next 10 minutes, and we're going to try and stick to that, although we're not doing a real good job yet, is that we're going to ask you 5 questions to better understand your perspectives. You know, please use your time judiciously. You've done this before, so you get it. Following tonight's interviews, the council will assess and rank candidates and provide staff with direction in the selection process. We will invite the council members to introduce themselves. To speed up the pronoun piece, my pronouns are he, his. All the rest of the councils are she, her. So just wanted to clarify that. And again, thank you for your participation. We're taking turns asking all the questions. So Councilmember Bolton just did it, Foster Bolton just did it, and next will be Councilmember Wilburn. But let's start by introducing ourselves.
Hi, Patsy, Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large.
Rebecca Scheck, Ward 2.
Brad Weirsom, Mayor.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4.
Deb Calvert at large.
Paula Romali, Ward 3.
All right. So our first question is, please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Well, thank you. So I'll be brief about myself. So I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Born and raised there. I've been in the wonderful state of Minneapolis here for about 14 years, and in our wonderful city, Minnetonka, here about 8 years. I work in the IT industry. I'm an independent consultant. My client base ranges from Fortune 500 customers to our U.S. and state government. I do projects for the USPS postal system as well as the state of Kentucky. I've been in that business for, about 30 years now. So it's been quite a while. And what makes me the right person for this position? So I love Minnetonka. Like I said, I've been here for about 8 years. My wife and I are vested in the city. We have, our home is here. We own rental property here. We volunteer quite a bit, different organizations. My son is getting a great education here. He's in Minnetonka West, but he'll be attending the high school next year. And we really we love the city. But as a black man, I do experience some challenges being in the city. And so I feel like being a member of this commission and this committee and working together with others, we can promote and highlight the great things that I love about the city, and I think so many other people do, and try to have everyone's experience not be anything negative like what I've experienced in some of the years I've been here. So I'd like to be a part of that process as we implement policies and procedures to make sure that everyone can enjoy the best of Minnetonka.
All right. All right, next question is, in your review of Minnetonka City Code 150.015, Powers and Duties, Section 3, describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
So I think, as humans, we have more in common than not, right? There's so many similarities, but culturally, in our backgrounds, we have a lot of differences. And so to me, inclusion really just means having an awareness of those differences, having a respect for those differences, and making sure that as a community and as board members and leaders, that we can find ways that people can feel comfortable with who they are, and again really enjoy the best of what our community has to offer.
Okay. Question 3 is, what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
So I think the first year would be all about laying a foundation. And I would be a part of a committee that would determine what that is, but I think just in hindsight, my thoughts of how do we establish Minnetonka as a welcoming committee or community and a welcoming city. And I think if we can get the message out and show by example and have culturally events and experiences that people can demonstrate their culture, as well as we have learning opportunities. If we can promote this message that we are a welcoming community, then I think as we get into other policies around housing and we talk about diversity and inclusion, we create that foundation that we are welcoming so people are comfortable, and I think that opens up opportunities to do business with us, people and establish policies around housing and things of that nature.
Okay. And question 4 is, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
So I think the challenges are one and the same for myself as well as in a group. So I think we all would have the same goal, but how we get to that goal, we're talking about different backgrounds, different races, different religions, different sexes, and so everyone will have their idea of how we get to that same goal. And so the challenge would be, how do we take the best of everyone's thoughts and ideas, everyone's experience and education, and how do we form a path from all of those differences? How do we form a unified path to get to that goal? And so I think that would be the challenge, but certainly that's, you know, I feel like that's the challenge of any committee. And so we would be successful in doing that.
Great. And the last question is, what questions do you have for us?
I'm glad you asked. So how would, for this committee or this commission, how would success be measured is one question. And then my second question, are there set goals for the year in terms of how many policies or procedures that would be expected to be implemented?
I'll start with the last question first. No. And I'm trying to remember specifically what you asked. I think we, in discussion of the council of what we want the DEI Commission to do and achieve, we sort of wanted to leave it somewhat broad so that the commission could kind of define themselves.
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that. But.
Anyone? You know, I'm usually good for an ad. You know, I think Kimberly said it well, but I think that this whole issue of, you know, we talk about being a welcoming and inclusive community, but what does that mean to people who are not part of the majority? What is it going to mean to people of color, to people who are immigrants, people who have different backgrounds? Because we really want to put our money where our mouth is. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I really think that's important. But I think for us to define it now and say, well, this is what you've got to do is not the right thing. It really is up to the commission to work with Jace Alexander, our DEI coordinator, with our staff and with the council. To really say, okay, what does success look like, and where are we falling down? And maybe we're doing some things well. Well, how can we expand those? But I mean, we're really looking. I mean, this is more than any commission we've probably ever had, a blank sheet of paper, and we know we have a lot of work to do, but we don't know exactly what that work is, and we need this commission to help define that. So, and if anyone has anything to add to that, please do. But this is going to be an important commission for our community.
No, I agree, and you know, as we think about the future of, you know, Minnetonka, and I kind of think of, you know, my son as he's aging, you know, what kind of community do I want for him?
Right.
And so to have an opportunity to say what that looks like is huge. So I look forward to that opportunity.
Well, you said something in your introduction that was really important to me. You started out by saying you love our community, and that's really important to me. But we are not perfect, and you've had negative experiences in our city. I hope I personally haven't been sources of any, but maybe I have. And that's, you know, I want to talk about that because we know we can do better. But I appreciate where you're starting from. You're not saying, well, gee, this place is bad and I'm here because I got to fix it. And there are things that probably are not good that we can do better, but I really appreciate the approach you're taking.
Well, I can say firsthand, no, I've never had a bad experience.
Okay, your nose may grow a little bit on that one, but that's okay. Well, we'll leave it at that. But Derek, thanks for being here.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your the work you've already done for the city. So I appreciate that.
So you guys have a long night tonight?
It's going to be long, but we're doing all right.
We're going to clip right through.
We'll keep moving. Thanks, Derek.
Keep her going.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you.
Nice job. We're getting our rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you are Elisa Chen, right?
That's
Did I
correct.
pronounce that properly?
Yes.
Good. So what we will do tonight, first of all, thank you for being here and for your interest in joining our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is an inaugural effort, and we're excited about it. There's a lot of work ahead, but we really appreciate your interest in joining the commission. We've only got about 10 minutes, so we're going to pose 5 questions to you. And the way we've been working it is we've been going down the line and having each council member take turns. We have 5 questions. One council member asks all the questions, so you're not having to bounce around the room. And we will go down the line and introduce ourselves to you, so you have the council members, and then we'll try and keep things moving. But we really appreciate, again, your being here. So I'll go to my left and ask Council Member Patsy Foster Bolton to introduce herself, and we'll
Hi.
take it from there.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Hi, Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Oh, sorry.
Rebecca Shack, Council Ward 2, she, her.
And Brad Wearsome, Mayor, he, his.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Romeoli, Ward 3, she, her.
And it's Councilmember Rebecca Shack's turn to
I'll be
lead the
asking the
charge.
questions. So, well, thanks for being here. We'll start with the easy one. Please tell us about yourself and your background and what makes you the right person for this position.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. Again, my name is Elisa, she, her. I am a resident of Minnetonka, and I've been here for 3 years. I live here with my partner and our 2 young daughters, 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And for the short time that we have, some things about me. I'm a novice potter. I love pottery. I am also a lover of languages. I speak Mandarin fluently, I speak Spanish fluently, and I'm working on Arabic. And I love connecting with communities, particularly over delicious food. So we have a lot of folks in our home often and cooking food together. What I feel makes me uniquely positioned for serving on this commission, from what I understand, as a member of this commission, big components of this work is serving in a facilitator in an advisory role, as well as being a facilitator and uplifting of marginalized voices. And I feel like that is something that I've consistently done both in my professional background and in my volunteer experience. So over the past 15 plus years, I've served as a consultant in the private sector, in the nonprofit, and also in now the government sector. So I'm a federal employee. I work with 18F, which is a federal consultancy, and we partner closely with federal agencies to create better public experiences in our federal services and ensuring that they're inclusive and equitable. So at a different scale, but certainly the same vein of work. Also, I've served on a nonprofit for 9 years called ProInspire, and I've helped them navigate a focus into helping BIPOC leaders in the social sector really thrive in the social sector, and that can be building capacity competencies at the leadership level, but also working with different grantees and grant makers in funding areas within DEI. So I've recently just concluded my 9-year stint with them. I also have a passion, as I mentioned, connecting with communities. So I've spent a lot of time in various places, finding ways to engage with marginalized populations, so working with refugee children. That was in Houston in particular, but helping them resettle into a new location through an after-school program. And also, I spent a great deal of time in a startup in DC, also finding ways for new parents, in particular mothers who are low income and mothers of color, navigate services they need when they're transitioning into parenthood. And also being a design strategist within the federal service, a lot of our work is employing user research practices that are human-centered, that employ trauma-informed approaches, so that we are including those most marginalized in how we develop new products or services for the American public. So I feel like, all of those things come together, kind of uniquely position me to serve in that capacity.
Lots of experience. So you, in the section of the code that defines, in Minnetonka City Code that defines the powers and duties of the commission, describe in your own words what it would be, what it is to be an inclusive, equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in the city.
Yeah. You know, something that I really hope for is that DEI in Minnetonka is represented in a way that feels like it is not the lack of something we don't have, but the presence of something. And what I mean by that is that, you know, I envision a community where all residents of differing socioeconomic backgrounds, racial identities, gender, ages, abilities, feel heard, are heard, and can thrive in the community. And as they navigate different life experiences, whether it's voting for the first time, being a student, like everyone can thrive and reach their full potential.
Great. What is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
I don't know if I feel, I guess, prepared to say these are specific strategies or specific policies or solutions, but I do feel strongly about particular strategies or approaches, one of which is an asset-based approach. And what I mean by that is that I think often DEI types of efforts can take a deficit-based approach, and we look at things and we say, here are the gaps. This is what we don't have. This is what we need to improve, which is certainly a particular framing and important, but I would like to flip it and say, what's an asset-based approach? What do we have? What's working well? What are we learning from other communities? And having that more asset-based approach, I hope, provides a more forward-moving momentum or energy for communities to want to be involved and to want to join on and to say, these are shared things that we do have, let's take it from there. I don't know if I've
Yeah, that's good. Based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
Yeah, I think an individual challenge will be, I imagine it will be like drinking from a fire hose in regards to like getting all the context necessary to want to get started. You know, I know that there's been previous listening sessions with communities, surveys, et cetera, so I'm sure there's just a lot of context to kind of drink in as a new commission member. From a group perspective, I imagine there already is, we will uncover a lot of DEI needs, and prioritization is going to be hard and challenging in figuring out what should we address first, second, and third? How do we align on that? What is the prioritization framework we want to move forward with? And I'll also say that, you know, DEI work is work that isn't usually solved with silver bullet solutions. It isn't a one and done sort of a thing. And so managing our own expectations of what success looks like, managing community expectations of what success looks like, I think will be really important. It's not that success can't be had in a short term, but just understanding that it's likely a marathon and not a sprint.
Good perspective. Lastly, do you have any questions for us?
I do. I have two questions, and feel free to respond to whatever resonates. I'd be curious to hear what DEI-related issues keep you all up at night, and what does success look like for you all as for this commission in particular? Yeah.
Anyone, Kizzy?
Thank you for being here. One of the things that keeps me up at night is really what are we doing to help minorities create generational wealth? We do have a disparity in that area, and I think that's something that in Minnetonka we really need to amp up a little bit more, and so that's what keeps me up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other responses?
Well, I would say just how are we reaching all of our residents? You know, when sending out city communications, how are we? There's a certain subset of the population that we don't seem to be engaging. So how do we engage everyone in the community? And that's
Love it. Yeah. I'm particularly passionate about that. Something that I try to center as I think about the work is nothing for us without us. And so participatory approaches, like I feel like this commission is meant to elevate the voices that have historically been underserved. And that sometimes can be uncomfortable when we make decisions that aren't based on majority needs. And so I'm really excited to see this commission come together. And I imagine a big learning curve is this commission is, as you mentioned, inaugural, so there will be a lot of learn by doing.
And I think that goes to your first question as we wrap up here, but we've been very deliberate not to be too prescriptive and not to define, that there's a finish line and we're going to reach it. So I think it's such a tough question. I've been thinking a lot about what does success mean. I don't know that we necessarily know, but we certainly know there are areas where we're doing good, and there are areas that we seem to have some blind spots, and so having a group of diverse voices help us identify those things will really, I think, for a first year I would consider successful.
I'll just add a little bit, and I really appreciated your comment about taking an asset-based approach, because I think I think you can tackle a lot of problems in a lot of ways, and if you take a more negative approach, you're going to find a lot of issues. I think take more an asset-based approach and say, okay, what can we learn from other places? What things are we doing well? How do we build on that? I mean, to me, that is very attractive to me, and I think that your perspective and your experience are very helpful. So I really appreciate your being here tonight. I thought your answers were great, and I think for a new commission, we don't really know what there looks like. What does the destination look like? I don't think we know the answer to that question, but we know that I think we all collectively agree that this work and being more inclusive and listening to people who perhaps historically have been less heard from in our community has got to be a part of it. And also, we know that the younger we go in our community, the more diverse we are. So it's important for us to, so often you get into these roles, well, you've been around the community for a while, you get well known. I mean, having new people in the community and younger people providing perspectives, I think will be very instructive to us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anything else, Council? Elise, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Oh, thank you.
Well, good evening and welcome. Thanks, thanks for being here, and thank you for your interest in joining the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is an inaugural opportunity, and your commitment and interest are very much appreciated. And what we will do is our 7 council members are up here. We'll go down and introduce ourselves, share our pronouns, and then basically ask you a series of 5 questions. I think they've been shared with you. We've got about 10 minutes to do all this good stuff, but again, we appreciate your being here. So with that, I'll ask each of the council members, starting on my left, to go and introduce themselves.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
She, her.
She, her.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Weirson, Mayor. I'm the only he, his.
Casey Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Romali, Ward 3, she, her.
All right, and we've been rotating the question answer asking role, and you're the 5th person, so I get to ask the questions this time. So the first question is, please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for a position on our DEI Commission.
Great. Well, first, I'm Jason Brown, he, his, him. I have been an educator for most of my career. I grew up in rural Ohio, and so diversity, equity, inclusion was not part of the thinking where I was from about 30 years ago. So I've been in Minnesota for approximately 30 years. I'm older than I look.
Oh.
And I know. I'm trying to own that, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to be older, but no, I'm older. Coming from rural Ohio to the Twin Cities, where I was a teacher right away in the city schools, I was shocked. Like I was so unprepared for the community that I was entering into, and the kids I was going to work with, and the parents and the community understanding that community. That as a 20-something-year-old who had not been in any context that had related to diversity, it really drove home to me the importance of me as a person understanding other identities, understanding other people, understanding how who I am and my identity interacts with people and has a relationship to that, especially when it came to the classrooms that I was working in. As my career has progressed, I've worked in a lot of DEI-like roles. I've sought those opportunities out. I used to work at the Guthrie Theater as the director of education. There I was in charge of their DEI initiative, volunteer committee of the staff. Currently I work for RSM, which is a global financial firm, and I am a part of the CDI, they call it CDI, they're co-chair for the Minneapolis office, and I work with the national CDI effort. I say that not as like I seek out opportunities to solve problems in that way, but it's a lot to do with the fact that I keep reminding myself that I work in communities where people are different than me and identify different than me, and I need to know as much as I can too. So as much as I want to affect change, it's also a selfish goal of mine to be in proximity to people and like myself so I can continue to grow and learn too. So I hope that that education experience, that experience in working in those other committees, but also like a personal commitment to that education is a reason why I want to join the committee.
Great, thank you for that. So in your review of the Minnetonka City Code, presuming you did that, you don't have to say one way or the other. Excellent. You know, you're probably ahead of the mayor, but you know we're not gonna go there. Powers and duties, section 3, describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in this city.
Yeah, and so when I read that statement again in the question today, because I read it way before, you know, like I've read the city, the word.
Exactly.
What I noticed is those 3 words, live, work, and recreate in Minnetonka are really interesting and unique. Those are 3 very different things, right? If you live in Minnetonka, you're part of the community in a certain way. And to live in Minnetonka means that you're able to afford to live in Minnetonka. You're able to feel like you belong in Minnetonka. You're able to feel like your family could belong and be safe in Minnetonka. And so I think that what equity and inclusion means in an inclusive community for living here means that anybody could live here, anybody could afford to live here, and that anybody could feel safe and comfortable living here regardless of what their identification is. If you want to work here, I think there needs to be economic opportunities of all kinds for people to be able to take jobs here and be able to see this as not only a community where they can live, but a community where they can contribute to in that way and not be discriminated against at work. I know there's a lot of laws that relate to that, but it still happens in workspaces and they're not always inclusive, so really building that infrastructure for that. And then recreate, I think that it would be really nice. I mean, I know the lakes. I don't live by the lakes, but you know, we all know the lakes. And that I've had a number of friends tell me like it's just they feel uncomfortable coming. I used to live in this city, and they just even my friends who are white, cisgendered, all the identifications where they would feel the most comfortable, see themselves being most traditionally part of the Minnetonka community, they just feel like it's just not their community because it's too rich or it's too affluent or they don't have enough. You know, they're not prominent enough. And I'd love to see Minnetonka because it has such beautiful things and it does there's such amazing things to be part of that everybody feels comfortable coming here and feels part of that experience. And I think that opening up that environment would be, to be inclusive as well would be really amazing. So.
Great, thank you. So, next question. What is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
Yeah. That's a good question. I thought a lot about this as I was reading the notes. One of the things that I thought of is related to, I come through this through education because I've been a teacher for years. Mm-hmm. And I'm not suggesting that the commission would dabble or be heavily influenced in what the school district does or how the school district decides to educate folks. But I do think that there's a role to play in making sure that when we're building a foundation for equity and inclusion, that people our kids and our communities are able to see each other and see those different identifications, not only in their community, but in the way that we're teaching and learning and the resources that we use for that. So I think if there's something that the commission can do right away is to continue to build that foundation of understanding and continue to encourage and engender that foundation of understanding so that we keep building people's awareness and people's ability to see themselves in an inclusive community and practice inclusive skills and practices.
Sure. Thank you. So let's see, what, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to the individual challenge is that, of course, I don't have the lived experience of somebody who has different identifications. I identify as queer, but I'm married to a cisgender female, but I'm part of the queer community. So even then, people don't necessarily assume that. And so a lot of what I want to do is be able to not assert myself in the role of being a leader, but to be a listener and a person who takes in information without preconceived notions and be able to help shape policies and ideas. But it's hard for me not to want to fix things because I'm just a fixer. I used to build sets for plays and things like that, so I just fix things around the house. And so ultimately when there's a problem, I want to fix it. So I'm working through that sort of thing individually and being open and understanding of other people's perspectives so that I'm not rushing to judgment of what would be the most valuable solution, but building a solution with other folks. For the commission, I think that it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, I don't mean to sound cliche. It's just, you know, building that foundation in a community of people who have different opinions about DEI, where DEI sits inside our society today, in our community. I think the influencing of policies and procedures, or policies that would build on the foundation and build a foundation for DEI can be really challenging. So continuing to keep it as I just got off a conversation with the leader of our Minneapolis office today, and he feels like DEI is in the business community of Minneapolis is going away. He's like, oh, it's out of vogue now. And I was like, you can't say out of vogue. You can't say DEI is out of vogue. One, that's reductive. Two, what he meant is that people are lacking the focus on it now because there's not a business reason to do it. There's enough people for jobs. It's a different business climate. And I would hate for that focus to get lost. It's an important thing to continue to drive and strive for, even if it doesn't always have a clear outcome or vision for an outcome. And so I think it's challenging for the commission to determine metrics of success and follow those metrics of success and then be able to follow through on those. I would see that as one of the biggest problems, biggest challenges.
Well said. Thank you for that. So our last question is, what questions do you have for us? What would you like to know? We'll try to answer. I can't promise you answers, but we'll do our best.
Well, there's one question you asked me that I'm curious to hear from you all is that first year, like as you think of 2024, what do you think is going to be the thing that you want to push the most that's going to have the biggest effect on DEI in the Minnetonka community? What sort of policy do you want to advocate for, or what sort of conversations do you want the community to have?
Anyone?
Go ahead, Kizzy.
I don't really have a policy, but kind of what Kimberly had stated earlier with another person was to really get more diverse folks involved and hearing from them more. I think it's important.
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, I just to kind of reinforce, the thing that keeps occurring to me personally is that this commission can't possibly encompass every marginalized community that lives, works, or recreates in Minnetonka. And so I think pushing what you were talking about of it, being facilitators, listeners, making sure that we are taking in the stories of people, making sure that they're comfortable to tell the stories also, and then, figuring out with all of those different perspectives, not all of which are going to be represented on the committee, how do you sift through the many issues and prioritize them? But in terms of pushing, just really making sure that the commission itself keeps an open mind with each other and maintains civility and respectful sort of safe space, and yet you know, make sure that you can be straightforward with each other and actually say important things without, you know, being mealy-mouthed, because it's important and it's hard work with difficult topics and conversations. So
Yeah, it's challenging to gain that trust in that kind of environment. Yeah.
Anyone else? You know, I'll add that two thoughts. I mean, one, you talked about you're an educator, and I think so many biases and so much of what we see in our society is based upon lack of awareness and lack of education. So we were talking to a youth candidate earlier, and he's talking about celebrations that we have in our city, and we have celebrations in our city, and you know, and we're not going to be in a city that sponsors a celebration every weekend. But how can we make those celebrations more inclusive? And how can we celebrate different perspectives from different races, different backgrounds? You know, how can we be more celebratory of the diversity that we find in our community? And how can we also do the work of educating people, and you know, whether it's community conversations, whether it's TED Talks on, you know, I mean, there are ways that we can communicate with one another better, and I'm looking forward to this commission having creative ideas on saying, you know, I think we do a lot of things in our city pretty well, but I think really having a curiosity about people who are different than I am or we are, and really have a genuine interest in learning, so that makes people, I think that makes people more comfortable living in a city that people have perceptions about. I mean, we're on the lake, so you know that comes with it. I mean, Minnetonka's identity is, I mean, only 3% of Minnetonka Lakeshore is on Lake Minnetonka, but the perception is this is where the rich people live on the lake. I mean, that's the perception. So how do we overcome that? So those are a few things, but.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Love the seat right in the middle.
Yeah, that's fun.
Oh, you don't want me to take that with me?
Somebody will track you down.
That, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so much.
Jason.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Whoa.
Hi.
Good evening.
Tired yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
Going
We've
strong.
but we start at 5:30.
Oh, boy.
That's an earlier start than we normally do. So.
All right. Well, my name is Naya Dubanaeva, and I truly appreciate you having me come in here and taking the time to chat with all of you and just look into into all the issues and answer any of the questions you may have. I'm a Minnetonka resident for the past 8+ years. I've got a child in the school system, actually not in the Minnetonka school system. We're in the Eagle Ridge Academy, which is here in Minnetonka. It's a charter school. We are homeschooled for Hopkins School District, and that's probably where we'll be going, but she's in 4th grade now. We're very involved in all things city. So we spend a lot of time here at the Civic Arena because my kiddo loves skating. So we're here quite a bit, and then as I was chatting with folks outside, she loves dogs, so part of something that she does is that she bakes dog treats. So Sophia, my husband and I, and then some of the family, friends, and relatives, we come here for the winter market.
Excellent.
Yeah, we've done that too. That was started, and then we'll do the February 10th. A small plug for my kiddo.
Very good. Good job.
Yes,
That's
come
a
see us
mom's
either
job.
way. Whatever happens, come see us. We'll be here on the 10th, down the first floor. Actually, it's a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys folks probably
Sure.
ate the
Yeah.
winter market. It's so
Absolutely.
fun. So anyway,
Well, Naya, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming here tonight. And so the way this is going to work is that we really appreciate your interest in the inaugural Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. We're excited about the work that the commission is going to do, and we really appreciate your interest in the commission. We've got about 10 minutes to talk to you. We will start out by introducing the council members. We'll go down the line. And then we've each been taking turns answering, asking the questions of each candidate. So Councilmember Coakley Kizzy will ask the questions as we go through. But first we will start with, on my left, and council members will introduce ourselves to you, and then we will get into the process of asking you questions.
Hi, Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
She, her.
She, her.
Hi, Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Wearsum, Mayor. I'm the only he, his on this council.
Okay,
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
perfect.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Romali, Ward 3, she, her, and Dobro Požalova.
Oh, спасибо.
And Councilmember Kogi, Kizzy will ask you the questions. So
All right,
Awesome.
thank you for being here, Naya. So our first question is, please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Absolutely. So I told you, you know, my small history here in Minnetonka, but stepping back further, Paula here welcomed me in Russian. That's my first language. So I'm originally from Kyrgyzstan. I came to the United States as a student, and I stayed here. And now my whole family lives here. My father, my mother, my sister, and a bunch of other relatives. So to that effect, I'm very plugged into the Russian-speaking community, Ukrainian community. We're doing quite a bit of things now with when the whole war broke out, and we know a lot about the immigrant populations, and we do some work there. Why I would, and then professionally, I'm a CPA. I do small firm does taxes for
Excuse me.
bless you, folks
Thank
of
you.
color, immigrants, first generation business owners, and primarily because of myself and my parents. So my dad came here to U.S. when I sponsored him, and he drove a truck. And as he drove a truck, he doesn't speak English, he doesn't understand a lot of, he understands only how to drive and the rules, but when it comes to taxation and investments and access to wealth management, these are the things that immigrants like him, they don't have access to. And there's not enough education or, for them to go access and sit down with private companies to help them with. So that's kind of my side pet project that I do as a CPA. But my full-time work is Optum, United Healthcare. And that's what brought me to Minnetonka 8 years ago. Because I wanted to be 2 miles away from the office. And I still am. Now, we work from home, so, but who knew that, right?
Right.
So that's kind of one portion of sort of why I feel, it would be a great fit to kind of come in and just to hear what's going on here in the city and what are we doing, and it's fun to see that we're doing some of the initiatives around DEI. But I think it's important, at least to me, and that's what I always point out, is when we think about diversity and inclusion, is that we're not thinking in pillars of only ethnic diversity or only financial diversity. For example, my child is not a neurotypical child. So to me, when we think diversity, I want us to kind of embrace all diversity. So is it diversity of age? Now my father is not a truck driver anymore. Now he's, 72. He's a retired gentleman, and he needs help. He needs help navigating the systems, the healthcare systems, the situations with elderly adults. Now my child is kind of facing some of these different things because we all think differently. And for neurotypical folks like I myself am, sometimes it's hard for us to understand the diversity of the people who think differently. So that's important. And then financial diversity. Minnetonka, we are proud. We have beautiful community. We have great tax base, right? I mean, we've all seen our taxes, property taxes, just going. But at the same time, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have still a breadth of folks with different incomes. And that pressure is becoming more and more evident now. And I see that because, as a skaters with my daughter, we volunteer and we, with the skating club, we kind of pick up donations and we take them over to local food shops like ICA. And the pressure on our food shops is significant. And that food shops only serves, Hopkins, Minnetonka residents. So we're seeing our own residents that are in need. And that's another piece of sort of that prism of diversity that I think it's important for us to concentrate on. So I think that, these are some of the things that I kind of throw are in my mind. And even political diversity, right? I'm an election judge. And, every year I volunteer, and I'll be volunteering this year again. I just filled out my form, where I want to be, by home, not the 6 a.m. shift. But, you know, are we getting more and more polarized in that effect too, right? And that we're diverse, but we're going in different directions. At some point, the elections will be done. How do we come back to it? Because, as you all know, the reason why all of us immigrants come to this country is that we value the basis and what makes it, you know, different is the inclusion, the ability to express yourself, the freedoms, and the democracy. And I'm a big believer in all of that, in the processes and being able to support it in any way. So
All right.
that's the answer.
Well, thank you. We do have 10 minutes, so I'm just going to remind you that we got to kind of keep going. So, in review, the second question in your review of Minnetonka Code, City Code 150.015, Powers and Duties, Section 3, describe in your own words that what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in the city.
Yeah, and that's just rounds up to exactly what I was saying, is that we think not just one way. That, you know, we're accepting all of us in different ways. The age of us, you know, where we're coming from, our backgrounds, things like this.
All right. For the third question, what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
You know, and I had some ideas on that, but I wouldn't want to take too much time. In my mind, you know, we've got a lot of challenges that we have to look into, but also a lot of opportunities. I think essentially, as a financial person, right, as a person with numbers, I'd say one thing I definitely support is a data-driven approach. So whatever we do with our policies is, you know, we can back it up with data and dive into it and then kind of slice and dice in different ways. And I'm happy to help with any of that too.
I don't want, if you have
Not
something
all
else.
good, that's it.
All right, well, okay. Okay, for the fourth question, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
Well, for myself, I think it's just, you know, trying to not take on too much, kind of like you were saying, the first year, you know, what is that's doable, what's possible. I think that's for myself, because that's everywhere, you know, as I take on volunteering in the club, as I'm trying to advocate for my kid in the school, right? You can't boil the ocean. You got to start slow. That's my challenge. Challenge for the group. I think it would be important to listen to each other, because you know we're likely are going to have all different approaches.
Good. Okay.
Go ahead.
Last question. What question do you have for us?
Well, not a question, but more of a comment. I also applied for the Economic Development Commission. So I wanted to tell you guys, you know, and I'm sure you'll have a ton of individuals there too. And I'm happy to come in on, I think it's next week, to interview for that commission as well. But I wanted to tell you, in all honesty, I felt like, you know, maybe I'm so slated and so well suited for DEI. I met so many wonderful folks out there today as we were waiting. I apologize about this. That if today I'm not the best choice for DEI commission, I'm happy to come in and talk to you about the economic development one. Basically what I'm trying to say is, I think I want to serve our city, well, whichever capacity you think I'm better fit. So you guys tell me, you know, where is it better fit? Again, I've got the financial background, so I'm happy to get plugged in over on the economic development as a CPA, and kind of, you know, data is my thing, and tax is my passion. I know it's funny, but it is actually. But either way, I want to be of service. I want to help us out, and I know my husband laughs all the time. He's like, "You're gonna go volunteer for one more thing?" It's important to me. I'm in this country, you know, I love this country, in this city. It's important to me to give back what I can, and because I want my daughter to see that her parents are trying their best. We're doing what we can. We want to better our city. And it's important to know ourselves. Just like here, we're all neighbors. Chances are I'll see you guys next time at the Civic Arena, at the skating, at the hockey game, or anywhere. So either way, it's fun. It's good to meet you all. If I can be of service on any commission, let me know.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my questions.
Well, great to have you here, and your passion and your enthusiasm are very obvious, and we're going to have some tough decisions to make, but it's great. I mean, I'm just so pleased that we have such strong candidates.
I gotta tell you guys, just a side comment, I mean, the quality of folks we're seeing here, that just tells you how fantastic of a community we are. I'm just so proud of us.
Totally thank you.
I love your energy.
We are too. We are too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Just the cheerleader. when
You
need
too.
To get us through the rest of it.
Sorry, Mayor, I just.
No, you're good.
No, that was good.
That was good. Yeah.
I was thinking,
Answer all
that
the
too, though,
questions
but,
in one.
yeah,
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, and so I don't butcher your name, I'm going to ask you for the pronunciation of your first name.
Anna.
Anna. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I jumped ahead, Mike.
That's okay.
Okay, yours is I can do Anna very well. Okay. Sorry about that. I was looking at the next one. Okay, Anna.
I was looking at
I
it
was like,
going,
really,
Okay,
Brown?
On Sunday.
the mayor's on a roll.
That's
Okay.
it.
let's-
Anna.
Okay.
Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna, could be Anna. Okay, Anna, thank you for being here. So, my bad. But anyway, so I'll tell you how things are going to work. We've got about 10 minutes. And so first of all, I want to thank you for being here and for your interest in our DEI Commission. It's going to be an exciting new commission. And the City Council is very interested and excited to hear about what you have to say. So we've got 5 questions. I think they've been shared with you previously, but we've been going around and each council member has taken each candidate. So I believe Councilmember Calvert, Deb will be asking the questions of you. But we will start out by going left to right with and the council members will introduce ourselves, and then we will get into the questions, and we'll look forward to the next 10 minutes together.
Okay.
Anna, thank you.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
And I'm Brad Werson, the mayor. I'm the only he, his in this group.
Kizzy Copley, Ward 4, she, her.
Big sign.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Romali, Ward 3, she, her.
And Deb will ask the questions.
All right, so easy one first. Please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Sure. So, Anna Sunday. I'm non-binary. I am okay with all pronouns. And I think, I've been working with kids and adults with disabilities for the last 15 years. I started working as an autism camp counselor for a camp that's staffed 1-to-1 for kids with really significant needs. And that encouraged me to go into nursing, public health nursing. I worked in schools for 12 years as a school nurse. I started at an intermediate district that Minnetonka is a part of. And then I worked in Edina, starting with early childhood special ed, and also with the public and private schools in Edina, and finished my time in Edina as the health services supervisor. Since then, I have started working for Hennepin County as a public health nurse. And at Hennepin County, I work with long-term services and supports, which means that I go into people's homes in the city of Minneapolis primarily, but also all of Hennepin County. And I meet with them in their homes, or if they are unhoused, then I meet with them in a community setting. And I work with them to identify their goals. I listen to their stories and figure out how we can meet their needs in the community if they prefer to live in the community rather than in an institutional setting. So it's a program for people with disabilities and mental illness. And I've learned a lot about housing and the challenges that we face with housing in particular as a result of that. Also healthcare, health insurance, and access. And I think that it has also really taught me to listen to other people's stories and to find ways to relate and to make sure that the person is centered in all of those interactions, making sure that what's important to them is what is prioritized, and that they're given the freedom to make choices about where they live and work and how they spend their time. I think that ability to listen and really validate and affirm people's experiences is, I think it's a unique quality. And I think that I also understand a little bit about what it's like to feel isolated in a community. As an older non-binary person, and I say that relatively just because most of the people who identify as non-binary are in their teens or 20s, as somebody who's 40, it's a little bit, it's hard to feel connected to people, and finding ways to relate to others and feel like a community embraces you, I think it's really undervalued. And I would really like to see this community, to see Minnetonka be a place where people feel like they are connected, people feel like they are valued and affirmed. And so if I can be part of that, I'd love to be. I do have some experience also working with racial equity initiatives, one with the Minnesota Department of Education and one with a group of public health nurses, and also on the Barn Raisers Project, which is a national organization that's working to organize white people for racial justice.
Deb. Oh, it's me, that's right.
You're the question asker, Deb.
I was listening. So, in your review of Minnetonka City Code 150.015 Powers and Duties, Section 3, describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
I think what that means is to value and affirm the diverse experiences of anyone who engages with the Minnetonka community. And I think it's really a reimagining and redefining of priorities of what community is, who it is responsive to, and what the community does and how it does that.
So question number 3, what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
This one is a little tricky because I think that the scope of the commission is kind of hard to determine based on the information that was in the powers and duties. But I think that although education is near and dear to my heart, and I do think that educational equity initiatives are really important and valuable, things like Minnetonka participating in the Achievement and Integration Program, I would love to see that happen a lot. I mean, if you look at a map of the districts that participate in that program, like Minnetonka is like surrounded by districts that participate and Minnetonka doesn't. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I think that that's something that I'd like to learn more about. But I think that a more impactful change would be to look at our housing, our zoning ordinances, and research and recommend eliminating or changing single-family zoning ordinances to make our community more economically diverse.
So based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
I think the challenge for me is to understand the scope of the group and its ability to encourage and enact impactful and sustainable change. I recognize that it's a volunteer commission, and also that commission members would not be elected officials. You all are the elected officials, and so understanding the role of the commission, I think, but also feel like it's a meaningful group. I think for the group, I think that a lot of people who come to this work are really passionate about particular things. And I think that identifying common goals could be a challenge. Supporting each other to work towards those goals, even if they might conflict with another individual member's goals. I think being able to listen to and be responsive to the community and see that as the role of the group.
So the last question is, do you have any questions for us?
I would like to know a little bit more about the what your expectations are in terms of a time commitment, and also whether there are any specific initiatives that you're hoping the DEI Commission focuses on.
So I would say in terms of time commitment, that was kind of laid out, as I understand it, once a month. I will just speak as someone who has served on commissions and the council. It's not just showing up at the meetings. I'm sure there will be packets to read and homework to do and possibly, events to attend, et cetera. And then what was the second part of your question? The scope. And I would say we've talked about it with some of the other applicants, and we've kept it purposefully kind of open because we want to make sure that the commissioners have some agency in shaping the work plan, and making sure it's something that there's some passion, I think, for the people on the commission to work on. But I do think that the city council may have to come up with some sideboards because it's an enormous, there's such a huge array of things to work on that I think we may have to help sort of put some limitations on there. But right now we're keeping it open to make sure you all can, define what you feel are achievable goals and so forth.
Does anyone have anything else? I'll jump in a little bit because you've used the term scope numerous times, and I think that's really one of the challenges that the commission will face is to define its scope and probably to reel it in, because there's a vast array of that a DEI commission could work on, and so to collaboratively develop some priorities and what is the scope of this commission and what can we realistically do with the resources that we have. As there will be one commission meeting per month. That does not mean that there won't be subcommittees and other things to perhaps explore different issues. But exactly what should be done, agreeing on what the greatest needs are in the community and developing, what do we want to focus on? Clearly, I think the city council, would be happy to provide ideas, but I think it's really important for the commission to come together and decide what, as they look at this challenging topic, what does the city have, what does it need, and how can we tackle this? I think really defining scope is probably going to be critical to the work of the commission in its first 6 months to a year.
That might be the scope.
That's right. That's right.
Right there.
And and you don't like to get into this, this circular argument. Well, okay, what scope, and we have to define scope. But I really think that's it. I think that if we try and do it all, we fail. So how do we bring focus to this issue, and what are the greatest needs in this context for the city? I think that's what we're looking to the commission to help us determine, and we have a professional and our staff, and you'll have support, but it's a very good question. I don't know if that's helpful, but
it is, because it's helpful to know that that's going to be kind of an ongoing discussion, because when I looked at the powers and duties, I was thinking, wow, I can see how this committee could become an ambassador to the community and solely that, like organizing, you know, community engagements or celebrations or things like that. And I really think, you know, what I've learned about change initiatives is that really, like, policy changes is what it makes, like, lasting change. And education, you know, like, although those things are nice, they're good, they're important, they're needed, that I think probably more of like a research and informing the city council and helping actually create policy change is probably the most meaningful thing that the commission can do.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Anna. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Mayor, are we taking a break or do you want to keep rolling?
Do we have,
Break.
yeah, let's take a break.
1 minute to 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's take a
'Cause
5-minute.
We've got people waiting.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
got,
we're behind, but so 5 minutes.
yeah, we'll take a quick break. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we are behind. Quick break. Yeah. Right.
Maria Fay, right?
Yes, Maria.
Maria Fay, okay.
Maria Fay.
Very good. I wanted to get that right.
Oh, well,
I'm
thank
very
you.
sensitive about getting names correct and, so,
I feel
well,
like I'm the opposite. I'm very like, it's okay, you know, because I am not the best with names.
Yeah.
I kind of give myself a giving everyone grace.
well, I'm sure people appreciate your grace, but I think it's, when you're on a city council, it's kind of, if you get it right, it's a much better position to be in, trust me. So let's see, we're waiting just a couple of people, and then we'll get into it, and thank you for waiting. I'm sorry we're running a little behind.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's got,
Patsy's
she's got
injured. Yeah.
mobility.
Yeah, one of our council members was hit by a car, so she's hobbled a bit. She's here. I give her. She gets a lot. She gets gold stars for showing up tonight.
A for effort is always appreciated.
Yes, yes. But we'll have her come back. And
It just looks like a big ball of sugar.
It is.
So thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I was a little nervous. I am going to read from my notes, but still, you know, make eye contact.
And well, don't be nervous. Just you know, we just want to get to know you and appreciate your being here.
Well, thank you. Don't worry about it.
No problem. You okay, Patsy? You doing all right?
Thanks.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your interest in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is a new commission for the city, and so we are going to be appointing the whole commission. And so we've got quite a few candidates to get through, and we really appreciate you being here. We think that the work of this commission will be very valuable to the city. So we've got about 10 minutes for interviews, which is not enough time. We've got 5 questions. I think they've been shared with you. And then we will do an assessment and ranking and make the tough decision, because I'll tell you what, we have not had a bad candidate tonight. So this makes our job harder, but this is a nice problem to have. So we'll go down the line, and each of our council members will introduce themselves to you. And then the way we've been doing it is we've had one council member ask all the questions, and we've been rotating that. So Councilmember Rameli will be the councilmember asking the questions for you, so you don't have to have your head on a swivel. You can focus on her. But with that, we will start on the left and work down.
Hi, Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Schacht, Award 2, she, her.
And I'm Brad Worsham, I'm the mayor, and he, his. I'm the only he, his on this mayor, on this council, just so you know.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
And Paula Rameli, Ward 3, she, her, although I think that goes without saying already.
Well, thank you. I'm Maria Faye Brenner Martinez. My friends call me Faye, and I go by she, her.
Okay, great. I will jump in and ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
And we're trying to keep it, like the mayor said, within 10 minutes. So first of all, if you could just tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Yeah, so growing up an immigrant in Minnesota has highlighted many inequities for me. For example, having access to healthcare, housing, fair wage, and not only me as an individual, but my surrounding community and my family members. So this has led me to be more involved in grassroots organizations at a young age. Those organizations focus on advocating for these types of benefits, and I saw firsthand how the lack of equity kind of hinders people's ability to flourish when it doesn't have to be that way. Fast forward to today, I work in Hennepin County and more specifically in the housing court. So every day I speak with tenants and landlords regarding, and sometimes they're positive conversations, sometimes not so much. But they voice their frustration with policy changes, procedures, and accessibility to resources. So, in my experience currently, we can only do so much in providing explanations, but I definitely think having someone to listen to concerns and frustrations is a big win for connecting with the community and the citizens in Hennepin County. So I think my experience and knowledge and passion along being able to listen to both sides make me an ideal candidate for this commission.
Great, thank you. So in reviewing the Minnetonka City Code, 150.015, Powers and Duties, Section 3, say that 10 times fast. Describe in your own words what it's like or what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
Yeah, so for me, creating an environment with all residents, people who not only live in Minnetonka but spend a lot of time in Minnetonka, and workers have equal opportunities, access, and representation despite their identity or background. This also goes by saying having access to good education, health care, and fair employment. Also keeping in mind when designing like public spaces and transportation and infrastructure that it's accessible to all abilities.
Great, thank you. So what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
Yeah. An initiative that I thought of was to partner with local organizations to host events that would highlight minority business in our city. So this would help create an initial contact with maybe sub-communities and identities in the city that hasn't been worked with yet, or maybe we haven't had enough contact with yet. This also fosters any DEI efforts. We can also look at any existing partnerships that we already have that may be needing restructuring to align with any new strategies and DEI goals that we can think of.
Great, thanks. So next question is, based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
Yeah, I think a challenge for me and the group as a whole is building trust. A lot of things that I've seen on social media and how the community interacts with posts kind of signals to me that there isn't enough trust with the community, and ways to build that is having transparency, addressing concerns promptly, and leading with honest intention. I always think if you lead with honest intention, that will come through and you can easily explain why decisions or reasons were made.
Okay. And what questions do you have for us?
Yeah, so one question I had was, what hurdles does the city council see that face this DEI commission going forward, or this year?
I think one of the things that's come up in our conversations today, and I think as we've worked on forming the commission, is the scope has been intentionally non-prescriptive. We didn't want to over kind of identify what the issues were. We want to leave some of that open to the commission. I think that's also a challenge because there are so many opportunities for our focus and for the commission to focus that will be, I think, a challenge for us as a council and also as a commission to kind of determine what are our first steps and what can we promote and where are things that we have some work to do. And but I think we've interviewed people who are up to the challenge, so that's great.
Great, well, thank you. Then my last question would be, I know you mentioned that you're kind of open to what the possibilities are and opportunities are. Are there any resources that the city of Minnetonka has that kind of come to mind first of being able for this commission to use, right? Because I feel like the city of Minnetonka has a lot of resources compared to other cities. Anything that comes to mind, any resources that?
I'll take a stab at that. We've made a commitment to this commission, and we don't initiate commissions readily because commissions cost taxpayer money. And we hired Mr. Alexander, Jace Alexander, as our DEI coordinator because that indicates a commitment. And our goal is to dedicate not just Mr. Alexander's time, but staff time to make the commission successful. And so, that's part of it with a new commission. You don't know what you don't know. And so in terms of resources, Mr. Alexander's got experience in this line of work. We collaborate with other cities who are also doing DEI work. We learn from one another. And we're committed to this work because we think it's important for our city. So it's like anything else. When you spend money, okay, where's it going to come from, and who's going to pay it? But by establishing this commission, this isn't a short-term initiative. It's something that it's going to be part of how we present ourselves to our community and how we do business as a city. So this commission will be influential, and as resources are needed, those will be the city council will have to make decisions along the line, budgetary decisions and so forth. But we are committed to making this commission successful. So it's a little bit of a general answer, but I think, the city council was overt in making the decision to dedicate the resources to make this a successful commission and a successful initiative in the city. And as more things are defined, we'll have further decisions to make.
Definitely understand about budgeting.
Yes.
We all keep our, this is my stapler because
Right.
I don't know when we're gonna get another stapler. So I
Right.
definitely understand city budgeting and limits to that.
Yes.
Thank
Very
you
good.
so very much. Really appreciate your
Thank you.
time. And yes, you applied and came in, so
Faith,
thank you.
thanks for being here tonight.
You're welcome. You guys have a great night.
You too. Thanks so much.
Enjoy it. Zupa? the strawberry, chocolate covered strawberries are wet though.
Oops.
Oh my gosh, I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
You do it all the time.
That's not the first
I
time
did
that's
it once
happened.
tonight.
I hope you have, okay.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to
So back to me now.
back to you. Does that work?
Back to you, yep.
Okay. Martin?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your interest in the Minnetonka Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. We really appreciate your interest, and this is a new commission for us, and we're excited to see the opportunities and the potential that this represents. We've got about 10 minutes to do a brief interview with you, and so we're going to start by going down the line, and each of the council members, we will introduce ourselves. We have been one council member asks all the questions, and we've been rotating that. And so after we introduce ourselves, Councilmember Patsy Foster Bolton will be the questioner tonight. So I want to welcome you. And with that, I'll ask Patsy to introduce herself, and we'll go down the line.
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her.
Great to meet you.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Good to meet you.
Hi.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Good to meet you.
Brad Wearsome, Mayor. I'm the only he, his here. So.
Kizzy Copley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Great to meet
Paula
you.
Romali, Ward 3, she, her.
So, and with that, Councilmember Patsy Bolton, Foster
Great,
Bolton will
Mark.
answer the questions.
So keeping in mind that we have 10 minutes, there's the first question is, please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Sure. Well, my name is Martin Quintana. Recently moved to Minnetonka, closed on a home last June. So we're first-time home buyers, first-generation homeowners even. So it's been equal parts exciting and also a little bit scary for us to dive in. I work for U.S. Bank. I'm an email marketing manager, email developer. Been there for a few years, and I've been in that field for about 7 or 8 years. Originally from South Bronx, New York, so I came over here to go to college at St. Mary's University, Winona, Minnesota. I was offered a full scholarship, which is tough to say no to. I'm gonna be honest. Middle of nowhere, Minnesota wasn't my first choice, but that's something that's tough to say no to. And that was a scholarship that's dedicated to people who are the first in their families to go to college. So, one of the reasons why I'm attracted to this type of work is, I'm somebody who's benefited greatly from these types of programs and initiatives and organizations. So, I feel a moral obligation to give back in some way. I can't, I'm not in a position where I can, open a library for folks, or add a new wing to some college campus somewhere. So I feel like the next best thing I can do is donate my time and my experience and my expertise. My high school, Cristo Rey, that's also a school that specializes in, marginalized communities, helping get them ready for college, which is it was through that high school that I made the connection to St. Mary's and was able to land that scholarship. So something that makes that school special is they offer high school internships to students. So, they've got large corporate partners here in the Twin Cities and also in the East Coast, West Coast. So, I've been working in professional settings since I was 14. So I know my way around, that game. And lastly, I just want to say I come from somewhere that I think is representative of the type of people that we're trying to help, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what you need. If you need somebody to help out in those situations, you need somebody that has that type of experience. If you want to be diverse, you have to be diverse. That's the only real way to accomplish that.
Thanks.
Great.
Question number 2 is, in your review of the Minnetonka City Code 150.015 section
They
3.
make you read that out every
Yeah,
time.
we do. Yeah,
We're workshopping.
We could
You can
smooth that
skip
one
it.
out a
We
little
can
bit.
smooth that out. Right?
We're gonna cross it out right now. Describe, but you can describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in this city.
Sure. Well, I think, like I said before, I think the biggest piece is, diversity itself breeds diversity. We look at the census statistics for Minnetonka, a lot of the population, 82.4%, or it might be 84.2%, is white. And not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but if we want to strive for diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think it's important to foster a community that entices those people to move over here and start a family over here, make a living over here. Not only that, diversity from the perspective of skin color, but also, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, even things like income, that can greatly affect who you are as a person. So to me, what that represents is a community that is composed of the type of people that we want to be, which is covering all types of different spectrums, again, sexual orientation, race, backgrounds, income, things of that nature. And, for myself, being somebody who was a first-generation home buyer, it was a tough path for sure, but again, I benefited a lot from these types of organizations and people like you who are willing to take their time to donate, whatever they can, their expertise, their experience, ideas to the cause. And so I want to be a part of that. I feel like I benefited, and now it's my turn to find a way to give back.
Great, thanks. What is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
Yeah, that question was a doozy. I spent a long time thinking about that one. I think first and foremost is finding ways to celebrate what diversity we do have now, because there is diversity. I mean, you go to all the businesses, we've got all different types of restaurants from all different people, all different parts of the world. Business owners, I spend a lot of time in Minnetonka shopping, buying things I need, buying things I don't need. And I've met a lot of great business owners, small local business owners. And I think what we need to do is go out of our way to highlight those business owners and say, hey, Minnetonka is a great way to get your business started. It's a great place to have a business. And not only that, but we also celebrate that. We help you when it comes to putting your small family-owned business on the map. Maybe we'll make a post about you on social media. And I'm a millennial, so I'm big on social media, right? I'm a developer, email developer, web developer, so I've got those skills as well. I don't know if that's something that this position would entail, but I can tell you the digital world is very, very, very important. And I find that even in my own place of work, it's one that's very difficult to come into if you're new to it or if you don't have much experience in it. So to answer your question directly, I think the biggest initiative that we could do starting off is just highlight what we've already got and start to entice people to, maybe look in Minnetonka as somewhere where diversity, equity, and inclusion is in fact celebrated and is in fact wanted.
Great. And based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
I think an individual challenge for me would be to just being newly exposed to this world of government. That's something that I haven't spent a lot of time in. In my free time, as I've said before, I donate a lot of my time to St. Mary's of Winona. I spoke over there to the new generation of first generation initiative scholars, just telling them about my story, how it was that I landed a corporate job in the first place, because my parents never had a corporate job. My parents never made it past the 5th grade. So being the first in my family to go to college, get a job, have to type up a resume, right, have to learn how to send a letter, that's like, that's something that comes naturally to a lot of people and you don't think about, I never sent a letter before. So it was really awkward for me in my first job at 3M when they asked me to send a letter, and I was 24 years old and didn't know I had to send a letter, right?
Yeah.
So I think the big challenge for me would just be, exposing myself to that new world of government and everything that entails. And then for the group, I think it's just the question of diversity itself, I think is a challenge, working with people of different backgrounds, different age groups, different ways of thinking. That's always challenging. But there's a lot of research out there that shows time and time again that diverse teams, diverse companies, they do better in every single metric. Your employees are happier, your business runs better, you make more money. So the juice is definitely worth the squeeze in that regard.
Thanks. The last question is, what questions do you have for us?
Yeah, my biggest question, I think, is what is it that inspired this DEI group to come to fruition in the first place? If it's something that's new, that hasn't been done before, what were the needs that were seen? And what is it that inspired this to become something we wanted to do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyone?
I'll speak to it. So I'll just tell you a little bit. For me, as this is just my personal feeling, but me as the first person of color to serve in the city of Minnetonka to make history. When I ran with the thought process of making sure that everybody can be included and making sure that our city can be more inclusive. And so to my fellow council members and city staff was ready. I think, this was a great time, and I think that we knew that our city was changing.
Mm-hmm.
And with the change, we had to do more to make sure that everyone was included. And I just think that our council, our staff was just ready to do that work and really be intentional about it. And so I think that's what inspired us to get behind this initiative and to support creating the DEI commission. So
Great.
I don't know, that's just my thought process. Other people can share, but that was my thought process coming on the council, but also knowing that we had to do something.
Yeah.
And just bringing it up and not being afraid to talk about what's important for our city to continue to move forward. So.
And just out of curiosity, what was it like for you to bring up that idea and talking to folks and saying this is something that we want to do? Where you met with resistance? Was everybody gung ho? Yeah, let's do it. What did that look like?
I think the council, like I said, I think the council was ready to do it. I mean, I'm not the only one that can vote on it, so
Right.
it took all of us to vote for it.
Mhm.
And so just because it's here today, I know that the council was ready for it and
Right.
our city was ready for it. And we had city residents who also talked about it and wanted to see it come together and supported it. And so I truly believe in my heart that Minnetonka was really ready for change.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see it, just the 4 years, I can see the change that I think Minnetonka has done a lot of great work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say if we didn't, everybody know, I'll tell the truth, but I think we've done a lot of great work around it, and I think this commission is gonna help us get even farther, so.
Great.
And there were discussions even before Councilmember Coakley was elected, and there were residents asking for Human Rights Commission even before I was elected, which was well before Councilmember Coakley was elected. So there was, some of it really was resident driven. And I really think, if we're all honest here, there was a national racial reckoning where we just couldn't look the other way.
Right.
The staff had done a lot of work over the years with GARE, government racial equity initiative, which is a national initiative. And they had already done a lot of work, and so then I think once staff had a little bit of a foundation, they felt like they could support a wider array of work as well.
Mm-hmm.
You need a foundation. You can't just,
Right.
dive in the deep end. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add, it's a process, not an event.
Mm.
But I do think that clearly the tragedy of and the murder of George Floyd was that didn't start things here, but I think throughout the country it added impetus to that. But I also know that through some of the affiliations that we have with the League of Minnesota Cities, I attended some trainings and so forth through the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, which was very instructive. And so there were different people involved with, different groups that were encouraging the city to get involved, and some were council members, some were staff members, some were, it was a collaborative thing, but there's a recognition. And our population is changing. And the younger you go in our population, the more diverse we are, the younger you go in our population. And so if we want to plan for the future, we need young people, and we need to be speaking and coordinating with them. So, I think it was all of those events that have come together and others that really made the need recognized and appreciated. And it's not like, this is 100% of Minnetonka population thinks this is a great idea. That's not the case. But we feel from a leadership perspective that this is a value that we as a city council and as a staff believe is important for our city and for our residents. So, Martine, thank you. Your story is very impressive. It's inspirational. I really appreciate your coming in here tonight.
Well, I can talk about that on and on. There's no shortage of ideas.
Well, we're not going to do it tonight, but maybe sometime we can.
Yeah.
And welcome to Minnetonka. Glad you're here.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
My roots are Brooklyn, baby.
What was that?
My roots are Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, really? Okay, so I don't know if that makes us friends or enemies.
Well, I've been to South Bronx, but it was when I was running the New York Marathon, so I can't say I spent a lot of time there.
It's been a while since I've been back to New York, so we've been meaning to go back, maybe take a little vacation and catch up with some friends and family. So we'll see.
You don't have to say whether you're a Yankees fan or not. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
Welcome. Sorry we kept you waiting.
That's not a problem at all.
Well, we've had a lot of people giving us very interesting answers, but we're sorry we made you wait and that we're behind. So
It's all right.
I want to welcome you and thank you for your interest in the Minnetonka Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, and your commitment and interest in this inaugural commission is a big deal. So we really appreciate your being here. We've got about 10 minutes for your interviews, and the way we've been doing it is that the City Council is along this table. We will go down and introduce ourselves by name, and then we've been having one council member ask all the questions, and so we've been rotating. It's Councilmember Kimberly Wilburn's turn to be the questioner, and with that, we will. I'll just start at my far left, and we'll go down and introduce ourselves, and then we'll look forward to your answers to our questions.
Hi, Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her pronouns.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Wearsome, I'm mayor, he, his.
Kizzy Copley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Romele, Ward 3, she, her.
All right. So we start off with asking you to tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Well, my background is I am a Vietnam-era veteran, and I have quite a bit of experience in diversity issues. I'm a graduate of the University of Minnesota, as well as earning my master's degree there, which is in education and diversity. I served as the director of diversity in one of the colleges at the University of Minnesota. And I was also the equivalent of that when I served in the United States Army. So I'm retired now. I don't live far from here. My primary passion right now is golf. Practiced several years before retiring to make sure I was good enough to keep going with that. In fact, probably the only time you'll ever hear me swear is when I'm playing golf, and I make a lot of mistakes playing golf. So.
You swear a lot.
A lot. I do not understand why the ball won't go where I intend it to go. But over the years, I have become a single-digit handicap, and I love the game.
Good for you, that's
Okay.
impressive.
Right. Try and make this simpler. So, in the review of the city code, describe in your own words what it is to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, or recreates in the city.
Well, I truly believe that this city has the potential of being far more than what people think we are here. I've lived here for over nearly 30 years. And I can tell you that for me, the idea of being inclusive for everyone is not one-dimensional. We have to take into other factors, and that includes disadvantage. It also includes women. It also includes men and all ethnicities. It's important that our community believes that. It's one thing to say it. It's something else to show it. And we're in a position, and this is the right community, to not only talk about it, but do something about it. And hence, here we are.
All right, so what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
That's an interesting question, because this is the inaugural. And it's very difficult to start talking about what you want to do or change when you have no idea what you've done to get to this point. I think it's important for someone like me coming in to first get a baseline, so to speak, of what we've done and what it took to get to this point for this position to be put in place. Now, using that as a caveat, one of the things that I used to do, and I would love to do it here, is we used to have sort of a world dinner. In this case, where you would bring in people who would like to introduce different types of foods. It's an opportunity for you, Mayor, to come out and introduce yourself so people can recognize you face to face. And the same thing with our police captain. It's an opportunity where people understand that you are reachable, that you are approachable, and that you do understand what is going on in the community and what we're fighting to improve upon. That's what I would do.
Just like to throw out, the council could come too. Just saying.
We like to eat.
Okay. Based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
Well, I've never been one for backing down from a fight, but here's the reality. I'm here because of my beliefs and what I would like to see done. I hope that everyone who's on this commission has a similar type of ambition of doing what we can for our community. And I think I don't have a problem with sharing my views, but I'm interested in learning what the views are of everyone that's selected for this committee. My views are very simple. I'm very interested in everyone having a fair shot, a fair opportunity at everything that this city has to offer.
All right. And our final question is, what questions do you have for us?
Well, I thought about that one because it's a tricky question. I've read through the material that we have, but the real question that I have is, looking at this, knowing that it's the first time, what are your individual hopes and aspirations for the DEI? What do you expect of us? What can we expect you to want us to achieve in that first year?
So, and we've had this discussion with some of the other candidates. When we were talking about putting together the commission, we didn't want to be too prescriptive, because we want to give the commission members a chance to sort of define their scope and what they're going to do. I think like each of us have individual things that we would like to focus on, and perhaps we can share that
Love to.
at a later time. But I think so I think the thing that I would like to see is the commission to come together and sort of define for themselves what scope, what it is they'd like to achieve, and then the council can give input based on that. We were like, yes, we think that's a good idea, or maybe we could suggest, hey, could you work on this as well, sort of a thing.
Okay.
I would just add, and this isn't very different than what Kimberly said, but I hope the commission feels empowered to, as you said, it seems like you wouldn't have trouble speaking your mind, but we hope each of the members can feel like they're listened to and empowered to say how they feel and what they think a good vision is, and that somehow can, and this may be a little too aspirational, but I'm hoping that can coalesce into a work plan, at least for the first year, which will then inform the work going forward as things become. We're not, Rome wasn't built in a day, so I think we're realistic about.
We're building Rome now?
Exactly.
Well, it is, I see this as, it's a continuum, and I think right now, we're just trying to put something on the runway, hoping everyone makes it to the end of the runway, maybe takes off a little bit. And I think, we need to build the foundation this year, have achievable goals that make the commissioners excited to achieve, that are achievable and meaningful to set up the work, because the work is limitless. We could do a million things, but building out maybe a 5-year, I could almost see us building out a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or even just, saying that we're going to set goals for coming years. After the first year, we'll take on, X number of issues, or, try to do it. But I just think making sure that the foundation is laid for some really achievable goals, so that you feel like you can look back and say, okay, it's hard to get a commission off the ground, coalesce around specific interests because it's so limitless, and then focus the work, because anything that the group accomplishes is a win for the community.
Absolutely.
And I'm all about breaking bread. That is the way to, food is the way to people's hearts. It's the way to understanding, and it's delicious. So I am all about, I will bring a pot.
Yeah. I told my son the same thing, but food is the way. When he decided to get married, I said, you're spending all this time in the gym lifting and making your muscles big, learn how to cook.
Okay.
You'd be amazed of how effective that is. So,
Good advice.
And I appreciate all the comments that we've made, and I think, we've talked about a couple of things. We've gotten some really interesting comments from different candidates tonight. One comment was, don't boil the ocean. Yeah, well, let's not make the tasks of the commission so big that we can't achieve them. Let's achieve some things and be specific, and let's celebrate the groups and the diversity of our community with some community events where we can come together, and it's not like, okay, well, we're going to have a different community event every weekend. No, let's have a community. Your world dinner concept is kind of one of the things that, okay, there's something that you could say, well, we're going to do that this year. And that's not going to solve all of the challenges a DEI commission is going to tackle.
Absolutely.
But it's an overt thing that's visible to the community, and it's celebrating people that are different than the 80% of white Scandinavians that represent Minnetonka. And that's probably not quite accurate, but I mean that let's celebrate the diversity of our community and make it a big deal and talk about it.
Right.
So I think I think having the commission come up with some ideas and implement some ideas that say, you know, we're serious about this, and this is not going to solve all the world's problems, but it's going to demonstrate our commitment and our interest in people who are in the diverse population that we have in our community.
I agree with that, and to the point that we do not want to boil the ocean, but we do need to explore the ocean.
Absolutely.
In order to take a firm look at what we need to do.
I agree with that. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight,
My
and
pleasure, sir.
and thank you for your service to our country.
That was almost fun. It was a tough job. Thank you.
I believe it. I have friends who are Vietnam vets. We're probably not too different in age, and I appreciate everything you all did.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Have a good night.
You mean somebody like my age? Good evening, Shelley, correct?
Shelley.
Very good. Well, we've, thank you. I hope you didn't have to wait too long. The interviews, we're targeting 10 minutes, but I'd be lying to you if I said we're nailing that every time. But I do want to thank you for your interest in joining our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is the inaugural interview effort to fill this commission, and we're excited about the work that the commission is going to do. We will interview you for about 10 minutes. We've got 5 questions. And the way it's been working is that one council member will ask all of the questions, and we've been rotating that. So now it's Councilmember Shack's turn, Rebecca's turn. But we'll start out by going down the line and introducing you to each of the council members, and then we'll just get into the questions. So welcome. So
Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Wearsome, Mayor, he, his.
Kizzy Copey, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert, at large, she, her.
Paula Renali, Ward 3, she, her.
Well, thank you for being here, and we'll start with the easy one. So please tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person for this position.
Yes. So thank you first for having me here. I do also go by the pronouns she, her. And I am a Minnetonka resident. I have been a resident for about 9 years. I grew up in this area, lived away for a part of my adult life, and then came back for the other part of my adult life. And I, for a career, I am in the learning and development sector. And I would say that my expertise, what really interests me, is teaching people new skill sets and new knowledge, and then seeing a behavior change from that. And I really enjoy that process. What I like most is making sure that it is a positive process for people. I think learning can be fun and interesting, and again, seeing that change in behavior. I am a mom. I am a white woman to am a mom of a person of the global majority. And she is, I think as many parents, she is my motivation for making a difference. When I first became her mom, I thought that love was enough, and I have realized that it is not. That I need to take action and do the work. And I have been very fortunate to have found people, adults, who have been raised by white people in white communities who are willing to share their time and their expertise to help me be a better parent to this person. And I have really been so grateful for what those voices have gifted to me. And I have realized that that I need to do my part on a daily basis to make the difference that I want to see, and that I have a responsibility to my daughter and to all young people and to all people. So that is, and would I say that I am, what is it referred to, the right person for this position? I don't know. You all will decide that. I know that you have talked to a lot of voices, lived experiences tonight that have that valid experience that I cannot bring to the table. And so I will, that'll be your determination. In addition to my being highly motivated, I also am really interested in following up on initiatives. So what is the data that comes out of strategies, implementations? So we have a great idea, and it is probably a great idea, and if it's put into place, what is that outcome? Did the outcome give us the result that we were going for? If not, what do we change? And so I think there's the nice idea of the initiatives, and also I'm really keenly interested in what does the data show, what does it follow up with?
All right. Well, we provided you with the reference to the code that talks about the powers and duties of the commission. Describe in your own words what it is like to be inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in the city.
This is an interesting question, and I hope I answer it adequately. When we look at those words, that terminology, inclusive, equitable, we could look those up in a dictionary and find the definitions, right? We could say, okay, this is a nice definition of inclusivity, this is a nice definition of equitable, and those definitions are what we intend to implement. I think what is interesting about those definitions is that we're trying to implement them into a system that wasn't created for them. It was a system that was already created that didn't have those. And so we're trying to add them in, and it's the right thing to do. It's the good thing to do. It's also, I think, a big challenge. And where those definitions, as they are, will come into play is once there's that representation. Once there's representation that provides that inclusiveness and that equitableness, that then we have something that is what we're going for. I equated this to when I'm working on a project, and if I can build a project anew, I can make it whatever I want, and it goes usually fairly smoothly. When I'm trying to retroactively modify an existing project, it's challenging. I'm trying to come up against what's already in place. And we have no choice. We have to bring these things in. And I don't think it's going to be easy. And I think that it will be truly inclusive and equitable when representation is there.
Thank you. What is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement within the first year?
I would defer to the responses that came in from the community survey that was sent out. It was at the end of last year, and the community forum that was had. I would start there, because those were voices in the community that were willing to share their thoughts and their ideas. So I would start with what those voices in the community had. And of course, for me, again, when I look at it for what I want for my daughter, again, it's that unquestionable sense of belonging and the representation. And so I'd start with initiatives, again, that the people that participated had suggested, and then other initiatives that included those aspects. And again, I'd like to see representation increased knowledge,
Great.
safety.
Thank you. Based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be an individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
A challenge for me may be feeling that I am contributing enough. I am a listener, a supporter, and then a worker. And I would adopt that role within the committee and want to do my part of doing the work. I will say that I enjoy working with people. I like that aspect. And I also am 100% okay with I guess I'd say discomfort, my role in discomfort. So I would be there to support, to listen, and to take the action I can. So I think maybe feeling that I was doing enough. And then for the committee itself, I mean, again, people working together, there's, it can be great and wonderful, and it can also be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think relationships and careful, kind treatment of people is always a priority.
And what questions do you have for us?
I would be interested in knowing a little more about the expected commitment from the individuals that serve on the committee.
Yeah, a good question. So, in some ways, volunteer work with the city is what you put in, you get out, right?
Yeah.
But the baseline is an expectation that the commission will meet once a month. We anticipate, and that'll be a structured meeting. That'll be in the evening. We hope that that each commission member can make most of those meetings. I think that's where we get the most out of it. And then there will be events. We anticipate there'll be opportunities to get involved in community events. There'll probably be some joint meetings with either the council or other commissions, and hope that you can be involved. We also recognize this is real life and people have obligations, and a volunteer position can't always be your top priority. So there's, we're not kicking anybody off if they have to miss a meeting. But we're hoping that the people who get selected are fully committed and engaged.
Yeah. How many seats are you looking to fill?
We have 2 young person positions and 7 for kind of adults.
Adults.
They're all adults. Some are older than others.
Yeah. Right.
Time frame? So is there an initial round of interviews and then narrowing it down, or single interviews?
I think the aspiration is that this will be it, tonight's
Yes.
interviews. We're
We're hoping
do
that there were some cancellations. so-
provide some feedback, and then I think the commission will probably be seated and start its work in February-ish.
And I would say, just one person's opinion, we've had really good candidates tonight.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
the reason we would go back and bring more candidates in is if we didn't think, well, we didn't get there tonight. That is not the case. I mean, we are going to be challenged in selecting 7 from the candidates we have. That's going to be a tough job because we've had very good
Or
candidates
rethinking
tonight.
the size of the commission, right?
I know, that's what, when you said 7, I'm like, only 7? Okay, all right.
TBD on that.
I do want to thank you all. I am very proud to live in a city that has such a committee. Not all cities do, and so it is it's important. And so I'm glad the committee has my support, whether I'm on it or not, 100%. So
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Well,
We
thank you so
appreciate
much
you
for that.
hanging out and waiting for us tonight.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And regardless of how this turns out, there are opportunities to be involved in the city, just so you know. And
Got your
we'll
name.
share that with all, of,
Yeah.
and that's not predicting anything, that's just saying that we have there's plenty of volunteer
How do you
opportunities
feel
in our
about
city.
pulling
So.
mustard weed? Yeah,
Thank you
that's
so much. Have a good night.
That's really dredging the bottom.
Entry level.
I mean, I guess
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you all? Thank you for being here so late into the evening.
Well, it's.
Thanks for waiting.
I'd love to say, gee, we never stay this late, but my nose would grow if I said that. So.
Awesome. Well,
Late is young.
it's not lost on me the work that you're doing, so thank you.
Well, thank you. And I want to make sure I pronounce your name, Raina.
Indeed. Yep.
Indeed. Very good.
Yeah, that's a hippie mom thinking that the rain was real beautiful the day I was born.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yep.
Well, I'll just, by way of introduction, thank you for your interest in the DEI Commission. It's a new commission. We're excited about it. So these interviews, I mean, we're doing a lot of interviews tonight because we have to select 7 people, plus we have 2 youth who also, or 2 younger people who interviewed. So it's a big night of interviews, but and we want to take about 10 minutes to ask you a number of questions. The way it's been working is that we've got 5 questions that we're going to ask. We're asking all the same questions of all the candidates. Council members are taking turns. So it's my turn to ask the questions tonight, for you,
Yep.
and we've been rotating. And then we will start by going down and having each of the council members introduce themselves to you. And then we'll ask the questions, and we hope to use this time productively. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, Patsy Foster Bolton, Ward 1, she, her.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kimberly Wilburn, at large, she, her.
Rebecca Shack, Ward 2, she, her.
Brad Wearsome, mayor. I'm the only he, his on the council now.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Kizzy Coakley, Ward 4, she, her.
Deb Calvert at large, so she, her.
Paula Rameli, Ward 3, she, her.
Wonderful. And Raina Green, and I go by she, her also. So.
Very
Poor
good.
fella, you're quite outnumbered.
Yes, well, you know, I'm used to it. It's not a problem.
Girl
So, pardon me?
Girl power. Sorry,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes. So, first of all, easy question, just a typical kickoff question. Please
Right.
tell us about yourself, your background, and what makes you the right person to be on our DEI commission.
Awesome. Yeah. So I have to wear the cheaters now. I've just finally conceded. I grew up in northern Minnesota, and I think that sheltered childhood is an interesting part of my story. I lived in Nisswa as my hometown, but outside of Nisswa, even on a rural setting, we had chickens and geese and things like that, and a horse growing up. And so I had really no idea about the wider world other than what my mom and dad were able to share with me. And that is a community that lacks quite a bit of diversity in terms of points of view. It lacks diversity in terms of the sort of shades of skin you'll see in that community. But in general, it is a place that is full of love too. And so I think about it fondly, but I also think about the ways I was sheltered. That all cracked open when I lived in Germany as an exchange student in my junior year of high school. And so you can imagine a kid, 16, never flown on an airplane before, going off to a whole new country and a whole new experience. So I think that really opened up my eyes to what the possibilities were in the world, and that led me to wanting to go far away to college and get out of Minnesota. So I went to Lewis and Clark. I think you probably have seen my resume. Trained historian there, which is another sort of part of the journey to wanting to know more about the human experience. And I think that's what I bring as in my background as an educator. What I try to instill in students is the sort of constant desire to learn more and to know that we're never done learning. Work at the U. I didn't know what I wanted to do really out of college. I fell into coaching kind of by happenstance. I was trying out working in a law office, and this coaching job came up, and I'd always loved sports, and so that exposed me to education. And so I got a master's in policy before I got my teaching license. So I was either going to go into the PhD route and be an academic, or I was going to work with kids, and the kids won out. And 22 years later, I've still been teaching and coaching all this time. And I think the biggest thing that I think affords me the opportunity to serve on this commission is the work that Blake has allowed me to do. The professional development I've received there has just been second to none. You name it, we've covered things like implicit bias, stereotype threat, gender equity issues, identity issues related to the LGBTQ community, positive racial identity growth work that I've done a ton of heavy lifting on individually and unpacking that white background that I carry with me. And so I just think all of those factors combined with the role that I play as a mom of two kids that have neurodivergence. They're both ADHD diagnosed recently, both have also dyslexia, so we're working through some of that, and they're both Black. So having a lot of different hats that I wear in the day-to-day, I think, helps me be ready to serve on this committee.
Very good. The city code, and I can give you the number, but I won't bother, but the powers of duties talk about, and the words are, the city seeks to be an inclusive and equitable community for everyone who lives, works, and recreates in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? What does that mean to you?
So it's interesting, I moved here in 2020, right at the midst of the lockdown
Yep.
pandemic. We didn't know what we were getting into. My husband was raised in Glen Lake, so he knew that community. But we didn't know the neighborhood we were getting into, and I think actually we were so lucky to move where we did. We lived sort of in the Creek Ridge Purgatory Park neighborhood, and we had no idea the amount of children were going to be in that neighborhood because everybody was kind of still in their houses when we were looking around, and I would bring my kids there and we would bike around just sort of try to get to know the neighborhood before we moved in. But really the community we found looks a lot like what I think inclusion ought to be. I feel like there's ample outdoor space for kids to run and play and explore. Many different interesting local small businesses in the community. There's tons of activities and enrichment opportunities that the city affords us. I think an inclusive community is multifaceted, but also cohesive, and that's what I found in my neighborhood. That being said, it's not perfect, right? The community looks a lot like some of this room looks. There's mostly white people in my neighborhood, mostly pretty affluent socioeconomically. There's not a ton of religious diversity in my neighborhood. And so when I think about full inclusion, differently abled children don't live in my neighborhood either, so I feel like there's still work to be done, and that, as a historian, I know is part of the heavy lifting that we all have to do together, is really unpacking why are our neighborhoods looking like they look right now? What legacy have we inherited in the dynamic that none of us wanted to necessarily be a part of, but we have inherited it, and how do we then dismantle that so that the neighborhood I live in can really truly be that vibrant, multifaceted, and cohesive place.
Great, thank you. So, assuming you're on the DEI Commission, what is one initiative, policy, or strategy that you would want the commission to implement in its first year?
Sure. So I mean, I kind of just alluded to it. I'm a trained historian and an educator, so my lens, my bent about this work is that folks need to know their history, and folks need to use the lessons of the past to help shape their understanding of who we are today as a community. I think clearly where we are today is very, very much an example of that moral universe bending towards justice, the arc of it. Obviously, you're here on this frigid, cold night in Minnesota here. It's almost, 9 o'clock, and you're trying to do this work. And so I think to come back to the question, something about your journey led you to consider this as a really top priority, and it's important work. But not everybody understands it in that way. And folks mostly come to it as a buzzword that they've seen on some kind of social media post or some kind of news talking head where it's become a buzzword in the culture wars, and they don't really understand the actual history of who we are as a community. And to me, as a white person working through those layers that sometimes bring up the guilt and the shame, it's a journey that I can show to people. And so I think my first initiative is about education of the people who hold power. It's about making sure that folks really understand we're all good people. That doesn't make us not complicit in some of the injustice that remains in the community. And so to truly do the work, you have to know who you are and you have to know where you come from. And I think I would want to help teach, because that's who I am. I'm a teacher.
Great. Thank you for that. So based on your understanding of the commission, what do you think will be the individual challenge for you and a challenge for the group?
I have my students read this passage from late Senator John McCain's memoir at the start of the year. It's kind of a nod to sort of making sure conservative voices feel acknowledged and affirmed in my space in a mostly progressive school that I work in. But he talks about opinionated, quarrelsome, vociferous souls in the United States. Like, that's who we are, right? We quarrel, we have opinions. That's why this country is such a powerful place. But it also means that anytime you're trying to do work together in community, you're going to have a lot of variety in that space. So building cohesion, I think, is a huge challenge for any group, and especially a group that cares deeply about this type of work. There is a tendency towards righteousness and sort of a stridency, and I have been very much a person who has been strident with my students in a way that I think did not invite them to the table. And so I've learned over time to really not tamp down my desire to do the work and my urgency that I feel around it, but to be more inclusive to the whole conversation and bringing folks to the table rather than sort of not looking into a place where we have shared humanity. So I think the individual and the group challenge is we are needing to acknowledge we come from a variety of backgrounds, we come from a variety of places where we want this to be a priority or that to be a priority. And so we have to find and seek common ground together, and that can be very difficult. But I do think the role that I played within my department at Blake and the longevity that I've had there is in large part due to the fact that I work well with a variety of people. I can have hard conversations with parents who are very aware of the fact that they are powerful and are very aware of the financial output that they've given to the institution where I work at a private school like Blake. But also want their kids to do well and want the best. And so finding that common ground with parents means I think I can do it pretty well with a lot of different types of folks. So.
Well, thank you. So our last question is, what questions do you have for us?
Yeah. I'm super curious, given this incredibly charged, polarized time we find ourselves in, how do you stay excited about the work and tune out some of that intensity to keep yourselves healthy and cared for, but also stay present at the table?
All right. Somebody want to go first? Kizzy?
I'm just feeling hopeful. Like, I'm hopeful that the work that we're doing in Minnetonka, I'm hopeful about the commission and then the people that's in our community. So my value lines with community and family, and so that's how I stay excited, and my faith also. So.
I think one of the things that I've learned, and I happened to be up for re-election in 2023, so I knocked on a lot of doors, was that when you talk to people, and I may walk up to a door and know that I might not totally be their cup of tea, and but I'm face to face and I'm having a conversation and we have joint humanity and we have things that we have in common. If I go into Nextdoor or social media, my perspective totally changes. So I have to remind myself that my job is to have the conversations with the real people in front of them or over the phone, and 98 times out of 100 that is productive, and that keeps you realizing that we have joint humanity. But every once in a while there's demoralizing moments and you just kind of have to pull yourself up and dig down very deep and hope for a better tomorrow.
Anyone else?
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Patsy.
I'm newly elected, so I wasn't around when this started, but that's one of the reasons I ran, was because I felt like Minnetonka, like DEI was super important to this city, and the fact that this commission was, going to happen was very exciting. And then just in the few short weeks that I've been serving, I just felt like Kizzy was saying, very hopeful, in that, like, not just us on the city council, but the staff. It's like we're all really going for the same things. Like there's no hidden agendas, or it's all like the mayor talks a lot about a team and stuff, and I really feel like that's true, so.
And I would say for me, two things. Sort of on the darker side, I'd say it's self-preservation. You know, I come from what some might consider a marginalized community, and you have to do the work. So, you know, just doing the work is exciting. And from a more positive place, I was also an educator. I was a music educator, and I taught Suzuki Method music. And the founder of the method had a motto, which was, "Where love is deep, much can be accomplished." And I really love my community. I feel incredibly privileged to live in really kind of an American dream community where much is possible, but it isn't accessible to everyone. So where love is deep, much can be accomplished, and you know, that's what keeps me going.
Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of following up on that. So I wake up Black every morning. So I feel like I don't really have the option to not do the work
Self-preservation,
for me and my kids and my community. But I take heart, like as others have said, you know, staff, the council, the community surveys. There's a lot of people that support the work, and you know, I don't go on next door.
They are. Wise woman.
And so yeah, I mean, sometimes you need to surround yourself with like-minded people. Sometimes just to.
Yeah. Anyone else? I don't want to cut anybody off.
I think everybody's said a lot, and I will just say that I'm also a new council member, very excited about this, and what keeps me going is, first of all, having lived in a country where we didn't have what we have here, and having lived in a totalitarian country for a while, and so realizing the freedoms that so many people take for granted is something I never take for granted. When I'm here, and the fact that my family has been in this community for 5 generations now, and I am focused on kind of the next 5, or Native Americans say the next 7. I look at the next 5 a little short. So that's what keeps me going, is just doing the work.
You know, and I think you said a couple of things that I jotted down, but you know, there is a lot. You know, building cohesion is important, and there is a lot of self-righteousness and stridency. And there are people in our community that think this is exactly the work the city needs to be doing. Right. And there are other people who think the city focus on potholes and streets, and you have no business doing this work. I don't want my tax dollars to go there. But I can tell you that from a staff's perspective and a council perspective, we are committed to this work. It is vitally important. And you know, somebody said something that I wrote down one time, and it said, you know, people who need to be right are often right, but rarely reconciled. And then I look at the world that we exist in. We need reconciliation. We need to figure out how to make this work. In Minnetonka and beyond Minnetonka, we need to be an example. I mean, we're a city that is 80% plus white. Right. And you know, and I think, you know, I think we're a compassionate, caring city, but not every resident is a compassionate, caring person. And I think we have to model the behavior that we want to show to demonstrate what kind of community we want to be. And Councilmember Wilburn's exactly right. I never look at social media. I got an email from the other day, and I said, well, this so-and-so is writing this. I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't look at social media. But I am aware of what this person's saying. And, you know, I just think we have to decide we want to be better than that. And I think that's what this commission's about. So, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Any last questions? Otherwise, we're going to let you go. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raina.
Thank you for waiting for us.
I actually got some uninterrupted
grade report writing done.
Oh, very good. So it wasn't wasted time. Have a good night.
Good night.
One more.
This is going to be hard.
9 o'clock. We're gonna be done.
So you're saying we don't have to expand the interview pool?
I don't think so.
No.
We double the size of the commission?
Yeah. Sarissa's like, you're not interviewing any more people.
Right. If I see one more spreadsheet.
We'll be here 10 days from now doing different interviews, and we are going to be done.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad we started at 5:30, not 6:30.
Yeah, that's hard for candidates, too.
Thank you for your work on this, Sarissa.
Yeah.
Sarissa's had busy days lately.
Your
Yeah.
spreadsheets were
They're spectacular.
Oh, so
I'm
helpful.
glad they're
Yeah.
appreciated. They do take time.
When you're going through so many applications, it's so cumbersome. And you're like flipping through. I'm trying not to print everything.
Well, Deb gave the idea of listing it all on one spreadsheet. So thank you to her for bringing that up. And it was easy to do.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Very, very helpful.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, because you really need ways to figure out how to cheat. Because there's a lot there.
Kudos to the council, I think you, through your rankings, pulled in a lot of really solid candidates.
Yeah, yeah.
That pulled in a lot of what?
Solid candidates.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like all of the, it was a pretty amazing candidate pool.
It really was, really was.
Even the ones that didn't make the cut, there was quite a, it was impressive.
Likewise on the, even harder on the other ones because there's so few openings on the other boards, commissions.
Yeah.
You got one more person, right?
One more?
Okay. Oh,
Oh,
you think she gave up on us, or?
I received a voicemail, so.
Okay, you want to listen to it? You don't have to, or
I mean-
is it
Well,
from
it's
her?
a meeting. They were
Right.
supposed
It
to
might
be
be,
here 40
when are you coming home?
minutes.
No.
Right.
Sorry, you don't have to listen to enough.
Yeah, we don't all have to listen to
They
it.
don't pay you enough to work that late.
Oh my goodness, no, you didn't.
What?
All right, well then I'm gonna take
5
2 minutes
inches
and
per
do
hour
That's
falling
fair.
in Buffalo.
Don't forget.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
snow.
You're gonna, yeah.
You're gonna have fun.
Because if I bring it home and then it's gonna sit there for.
So, Mike, something
That's
is
true,
wrong.
except my brain
computer
is
not
like-
charging.
Are you sure it's not
So
my
full.
stupid thing?
No, because I have the same problem now with 3 cords.
Try to push it in
now
the
you have to
other
stop
way.
dropping and just get a new one.
Try to just push it in, like flip
New
the
iPads
thing
are
over.
scheduled for this year, I believe.
Oh, is it down to 1%?
Yeah, and I have it plugged in.
It was the last candidate,
Yeah.
and I think
Now
they
it
must
says
have
that
went
it keeps
to
doing
that
that.
front
It'll
door
start
because
charging.
they said the
Oh,
the doors
no.
were
Yeah,
locked.
you should be fully
Oh.
charged.
Yeah,
She
so it kind of. Anyway.
They
got
went to- I'm
locked out.
guessing
She went
they
to the
went to-
wrong door and they got locked out. She got locked out.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll
Is
take
she-
it.
is she- you want to call her and see? I mean,
Otherwise,
Can we do it like a?
But she was expecting
'Cause I think I come in-
7:55.
Yeah, I think I come in.
so we're
So,
40
yeah,
minutes
she's
late.
been home for an hour.
I'll send them a note.
Or not an hour. half
Turned
an
into a
hour.
popsicle.
I think we should just get you a new one.
Bummer.
I think council's getting new ones this year.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe, hopefully it's just a cord thing or,
Yeah,
but
I
it's-
feel
it's
bad
different
when that
cords,
happens.
Yeah,
She got locked out the door.
you gotta make sure it's in.
So-
It's plugged in still.
Do we know what happened to this?
She
Yeah,
just
it kind of
withdrew or maybe couldn't make it or didn't have the time. Couldn't realize
make
what
the
the
time.
time commitment
Oh.
would be.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering, like, if we hit.
I'm reading.
You know, but I find, I'm not sure those plugs work as well as the bigger plugs like you have, the more, I've got one in my office if you want me to get one. So that's more of a.
What's an iPad?
Well, that's more of a phone. See, I think a bigger one like that by your hand right there.
Yeah,
is
this
a
is
kind-
Deb's, but I'll take it home and try it on this one again, so. It's your.
It's my plug. It probably is my plug. It's not my best one, it's just the one I could grab with the long cord in case
And
I
I'll
also.
send an IT note.
Try-
You can look at it
yeah.
tomorrow. You're in tomorrow?
Yeah, IT training,
What time?
I think 3.
Not 7:30
That's next week.
That's next week.
We're just gonna, I think we're gonna check. Yeah, wow. I mean, we
There's
really,
so many good candidates, that wouldn't be like a tragedy if.
well, I mean, you know, you want to be fair to somebody,
Yeah,
but
it's
on the
not-
other
I don't
hand,
want to
it's.
be unfair. I would make,
gotta give
I
her
would
a
make an
chance.
Yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah.
even if it was a Teams call or a Zoom call or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
While we just have a quick minute, maybe just to summarize, so.
Yeah.
Just to make it I heard the voices on this side of the table, so the options are to, after tonight, if you want to have more interviews, if you feel like you want to expand the pool, we would want that direction, because then we would make that happen.
Right.
But I'm sensing that whom you've interviewed tonight, you feel like you've got enough to rank.
I don't think we want to expand the pool, but I don't know if there's I don't know what Clarissa
Yeah, I
has to
don't-
say.
I
There's
mean-
an opportunity to interview the people that work here tonight, that were on the list.
I don't know, like, if there's a way you could interview Danzabel over the phone somehow.
Did you reach her?
Yeah, she's on, I have her on the phone right now, she's on mute. Or
Okay.
I'm on mute.
Can we put her on speakerphone and just interview her now? Can
We could
interview
try
her
that.
Would she
Yeah,
be,
Is she prepared to do that now?
or do we have a,
We want to get this done even before we do the ones on the 21st.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Or, you know, I mean, couldn't we say, come in on the 21st and do one more interview that night and add her to this pool? We don't have to make the decisions. I mean,
Or
that's,
you're-
on the 22nd.
Okay, so next Monday's, right, so your study session is next Monday.
Right.
We're interviewing for other positions, so.
we could add her
we
to
could
that.
add-
Yeah,
we could
And
ask
maybe
her to
just
come
have
Monday
her
if
to
that works
go
for
Yeah.
first, so we
Yeah,
don't
have her go
make her
first.
late.
Okay.
Let's
She
do
go
that.
first.
Okay.
That's better, and we'll,
Or Corinne, from a open meeting law perspective, she could interview by phone if you want to.
Yeah, you could interview.
no,
her
let's,
if you want, but-
no, let's, if she's willing to come back, I think that's a preferable
Okay.
approach,
So
don't
then we
you?
have to wait to do our
Well,
scoring.
you can do all your scoring and then,
If you want to
If you want to
switch
change
it.
it
Yeah.
after her interview.
yeah,
I think that's a disadvantage for her, but she can.
yeah.
I think it's the best we can.
It's already, it's already, it's,
Right now while it's fresh.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I do feel your point, Joe, but it's kind of hard. How are you going to remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I was thinking if she could have did the interview tonight, but, cause in my mind, once you don't interview, I'm already counting you out. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna really, cause I'm about to do my score, and once I do my score, she's not gonna, to me, that's not even a fair chance, because we're gonna be thinking about who we already interviewed. and
I
we
don't
gotta
know,
wait.
I have a very
That's
open
kinda my
mind
that's my thought
about.
process.
Well, you know,
I
I mean,
still
I
have
think
a
we
very
each bring our own approach to how we score. And so, you know, if that gives her a disadvantage, it does. But in reality, I think if we give her the opportunity to interview face to face, that's probably better than
Better
doing it on the
than-
phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what?
She's already flustered, it's an hour later.
We'll do her.
And we can give her a time specific and honor that and get her in. And then, you know, but let's be honest, we've had great candidates. I mean, she's going to have a pretty darn good interview to muscle
really
in.
is.
But you know, she can do that. If we don't interview her, she can't.
Yeah.
You know, let's give her the you know, you know.
All right, well, if that's what y'all say, I'm
'Cause that-
I'm ready to go home, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna take my shit and go. I mean, I'm at that point
She's
where.
that'll work.
That's what you wanna do?
Okay.
So it's,
She said 6:30, 6:35 works for her on
Okay,
Monday.
so
Okay.
Monday?
Yep.
This coming Monday?
Yep.
so I think that staff's advice to you then is to score however you want. You can certainly hang off on scoring, but if for
I'm
those
gonna
that feel want to do it while it's fresh, you could go ahead and just score
Yep.
and then
Yep.
I kinda got my score already.
and revise
Yep.
after the interview on
That's what I'm
Monday.
gonna do. And
I
then
mean, I have a really good sense of who's who. I remember each one very differently.
I took
Yeah.
good notes too, but I don't feel like reading.
yeah, I'm gonna go.
All right, well,
I think we're done. And then Sarissa, when do you want? I mean, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
one
but it
second.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I know we're anxious to get out. Sarissa, do you have anything else for the group?
Just the scoring, it says on the sheet, just due to me by Tuesday at 2 p.m. Because it's going to be a quick turnover to get the appointments done
Yeah.
at the regular meeting on the 29th.
Okay.
And that'll be the same for the other board and commission
Right.
interviews.
That Tuesday as
Yeah.
well. So
Mhm.
we're gonna. So we'll turn
So it's a
around.
quick turnaround. Yeah, we're
so
asking-
So
you
we
need
have
by
to turn
Tuesday,
over
so-
the other boards and commissions overnight.
Yep,
If we want to get them on the agenda.
yep.
So
We sh-
that we can get them slated in for
Yeah.
like planning commission and stuff?
Yep, yep.
Correct.
We'll
Okay.
do it.
Started.
We'll
And
do
I
it.
do say Tuesday, so if there's a little buffer, I allow for a little buffer in case people are late.
Look.
Don't, you shouldn't even say that.
Call
I
me
know.
if you need to. If I forget, just call me, please. I'm telling you, because life has been busy. So,
Thanks again, Sarah. So hopefully.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
nicely done, yep.
And then one last thing, it will be in your Friday update, but with Jace here this evening, just want to turn the microphone over real quickly to Jace to talk about an exciting upcoming event that Jace is leading.
Excellent.
So, to help celebrate Black History Month, we are going to have Sounds of Blackness coming before here at City Hall on February 15th.
Wow.
So John will be putting out communication tomorrow to the city. It's going to be a free ticketed event because we can only hold 250 down there.
Yeah.
However, Sounds of Blackness did say that they will allow us to live stream the audio, so it won't be video. We'll have like their image up, but people could listen in if they want to, if they don't get a ticket. We're gonna have a black food vendor that's I'm gonna let use that space because it's Black History Month, and so they'll keep all of their profits just to use the space. Oh, I'm sorry. So that'll be exciting, and like I said, John's gonna send that out tomorrow, and then tickets
Where is it? Where exactly is the performance? Downstairs?
downstairs.
Okay.
In the whole
Yeah.
banquet hall.
Excellent, Jace, really well done.
Wow, that'll be
Very
great.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It'll be fun.
so is the information to go out, is the tickets gonna be available tomorrow as well, or just the information?
Just the information. Tickets go live February 1st. I believe at 10 a.m. is what we're looking at right now, and it'll be every person who signs up through the website. You have to already be registered, I think, through the Minnetonka website if you want to be able to get it right away. But 2 tickets per person who signs in is what it will look like.
Boy, what kind of strings did you have to pull to get Sounds of Blackness here? Since I'm in St. Paul, and that I was on Black History Month committee for 5 years. I don't think we ever successfully recruited that.
Yeah, but we have an all-female council.
True.
We're like
It's all
St.
you.
Paul.
Just like St. Paul.
How did you get him to do it, really?
I called and asked.
Wow.
Yeah, so they'll be doing kind of like a trek through history, so looking at the impacts of black folks and the influence on music through time.
Excellent.
So
Cool.
Should be cool.
Very, very, very cool.
Really exciting event.
Very, very, very cool.
Huge appreciation to Jace on getting all the logistics set up. Again, the tickets are free, so it's a free event. We're very mindful of making sure we have tickets available
Yep,
broadly to our community.
right.
We will be, I think, was it 250 people is the max? It's our fire code. It's like
Yeah.
250 in the
Yeah.
community center. 250 tickets will not be made available to the public. We'll hold some back for council and for certain staff members.
Yeah.
Council and their spouses, or just?
Council
Yeah.
and spouses.
I
So you won't have to go
Okay.
sign
That's what I
up
was
for them. We'll
gonna
have, make sure. we
yeah,
practice
that's right. I will have
I was gonna ask that. I'm like, do I have to
yeah.
be
So
on
2
there at 10
tickets
o'clock
per
going?
council member. I could use some help if there are folks that you work with in the community that you know aren't like registered on the Minnetonka site because they don't actively use it. That's something that I'll be working on in the next week or so, but I could use help in kind of spreading that word so that they're already set up and don't get hung up and kind of miss that window. So
Yeah.
When you say the city, I'm sorry, because
I was gonna ask you, are you gonna do flyers? Like
Yeah, I was thinking we should
Can
put
get some
flyers up.
Yeah.
I'll help pass the flyers out. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that.
Yep, John's going to be working on that tomorrow, and then we'll some social media posts and all of that good stuff.
Cool.
So I'll anything you would like to have, I will get to you.
and when you say the city website, it's through Rec Track. That's like for Kelly O'Day.
Where you
the
sign up
Mm.
for like exercise class.
Exercise classes or
Swimming
any kind of
lessons.
any of our recreation programs is through Rec Track. So that's the program we're using.
Great. Thanks, Chase. That's exciting news. Well done. Well done. And thanks for recruiting some of the youth. Joaquin, he
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad it worked out because we had one student and so it's like we need one more, and so I actually reached out to Raina because
Yeah.
we used to teach together, social
Yeah.
studies, and
Yeah.
I was like, can you look through who lives
Yeah.
in Minnetonka
Yeah.
that's solid?
Cool, that's great.
Can't believe it, yeah. So.
Awesome.
Cool.
It's a great job.
Yeah, the students was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, we had very good candidates. All right, everyone, anyone, anything else?
No, thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.